Hello and welcome to another episode of Video Game Logic. Today's show was recorded on December the 6th, 2016. I'm your host, Gaming Psychologist, and with me, as always, my personal Schick Hydropod.
Caffeine Rage. And December's? Really? There's more than one?
That's fine.
I had to point it out. I had to.
On today's show, we will, of course, be discussing the games that we played this week. The ASA finds No Man's Sky ads not misleading.
Bullshit! Sorry.
38% of all of Steam's games were released in 2016. We'll be discussing the 2016 Game Awards. We'll have our weekly community corner. We'll be discussing the first ever Video Game Logic Awards. And we'll have our Steam Weekly Deals discussion. Rage, how are you this week, sir?
I'm doing alright. It's been an interesting week because I fought with the post office. Well, technically that was last week, but, you know, in between episodes.
Right.
But that's going to be in a little bit, and maybe talking more in depth about it in a couple of weeks.
Why in a couple of weeks?
Because you haven't looked at my nominations right now for the VGL Awards.
No, I added a couple more to my list, but I haven't looked at your... Oh, the story?
Well, more of the overall thing.
Oh, okay. Okay. Fair enough, then. Fair enough. Well, I am doing okay. Because I'm going to overshare, because that's what I do. I have got a bacterial infection.
Yummy.
And I am taking medication, which makes me have to go pee a lot as one of the side effects. But don't worry, that's counteracted by the fact that it also makes me thirsty. So I drink a lot and I pee a lot.
Yeah, he just has that giant hamster bottle, you know, that he leans over every so often.
Yeah. So we try to avoid breaks on the show. We usually take one, but excessive breaks lead to weird editing, and also it occasionally breaks our train of thought. That's going out the window this week. I'm going to do my best, but I'm doing pretty good if I hold it for an hour.
Well, honestly, after we did that quick ending on the last episode, you know, it has to be better than that. Which I think we should apologize for just how quickly that went, but yeah, it kind of needed to.
Yeah, it was, it got bad. There was a tornado that touched down just a couple miles from my house, and 2 people were killed when it landed, and it destroyed several homes and a post office and ripped up a bunch of power poles, which incidentally is why my power suddenly went out when we were recording, which, I mean, we had just wrapped up. I saved the file, and I went to shut down my computer, and the power went off. And I texted you, and I was like, well, the power just went out, so I guess it's good that we wrapped up like that.
Yeah, really. Otherwise, you know, may have to try to do, like, either just send out the, about 2/3 of the episode that we had recorded and saved, or just try to catch you at the clinic or something to do the last, like, half hour.
Yeah.
Either way, it would have been nasty.
Yeah. So that was fun. We didn't have power for not quite 2 days, but it was a while. So yeah, I had to that's one thing that I don't have to worry about with my lapel is hitting mics, but now that I've got this stand, I punch it or hit the spring, which I'm sure that makes a noise.
Spring.
Yeah. But anyways.
Well, you just hit it every time you're aroused. And in the background, it's just constantly going.
But anyways, I had to edit the podcast very quickly last week, and there's actually 2 different versions because there's something went wrong with my render, and instead of it going down to mono, it basically muted one of the audio tracks.
No, it didn't even mute one of the audio tracks. What it did, I actually went in and fixed it myself, was that whenever you, I'm not sure if you tried to mix it down to mono or how exactly you mix it down, but the left track was perfectly fine. It was the right track that was at like 25% volume. So whenever I opened it up in my video software to render my video for my channel, I saw stereotype. Well, maybe he just didn't have time. He's trying to get this out. And then I looked at the waveforms and saw, one normal waveform and one that was basically a flat line because it was so quiet.
Yeah,
I thought,
I have no idea what happened there.
well, that's new. Hit play, and of course, everything in the left side. So I mixed it down to mono. It did bring the volume down a little bit, but it was good enough. And
Yeah.
I actually linked to the Podbean version of it, which was the version that the cheeky little monkeys did not get.
Yeah.
But then Podbean decided that one of the show note links was going to link to some sort of a weird admin page that was giving a 500 error. I think that's access denied or something like that. But it's just because I copied the URL for the Skyrim Book Club verbatim from Jim's tweet. And Podbean, whenever you set up a hot link, requires www. Yeah, it's one of those. So
Yeah. Well, at least that's good to know for the future.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, the last episode was a mess on both sides.
Yeah, both ends of the recording. Normally editing fixes all of it, but apparently not this week. But so I had a rough week. I took Friday night off. One of my games comes from Friday night. Just sitting on my couch. I was tired. Plus I was sick. Again. Although this time it's not from the kid. I have no idea how I picked this thing up. Nobody has it. Nobody at King's Daycare has it.
You said on something funny during your new therapy sessions.
The best I can figure after talking to my doctor and actually the clinic director, we got during all of the storms and everything, some of the clinic got water damage, and they didn't tell anybody.
Of course not. Why
so
would you need to know that?
There was all kinds of junk in some of those rooms, and so the only thing that I can figure is that there was something in there that I managed to pick up somehow, maybe like through a cut or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I just didn't wash my hands good enough or whatever. I mean, I don't have any proof or anything. I just have this illness.
Just a slight case of the plague.
Yeah. Thankfully, it hasn't really affected me too poorly. It could have been a lot worse, and I didn't lose my voice. I had a fever for a couple of days, but it was like the non-contagious type of fever. So, I mean, I had some stuff like the first day in my own body, like soreness and tiredness or whatever. Like I thought I had the flu, which is why I went to the doctor. But after, a couple of days of antibiotics, I pretty much felt like normal, except for having to go pee every hour.
Oh no, that seems kind of normal for you when we record.
Well, the problem when we record is I'll drink 2 gallons of liquid. That's why I have to go pee so much while we record normally. I'm just taking very little dainty sips right now to keep myself from being parched. Really classy. I'm like royalty today.
Civilized as fuck.
Yeah, speaking of that, I need to turn my music back on. Tonight's podcast is brought to you by Today's Pop Hits from Google Play Music. I don't know any of these songs on this playlist. So if every once in a while you just hear me go, that's pretty good, I'm talking about the music.
And definitely not the games I played.
I don't know. We'll see. What games do you play this week, Rage?
Well, first of all, let's talk about some hardware. Because I finally got my gaming mouse, or my new gaming mouse.
Did you now?
And got rid of that crappy little Microsoft mouse that I've been fighting with for the last couple of weeks.
I'll fight with your hardware.
Oh, my.
Couldn't resist. Carry on.
Yeah, I know there's nothing terrible about the Microsoft mouse, except for the sensor. Because every so often it would just, zip off in one direction. But it's also a very old mouse, so I ended up getting a Logitech G400 MMO. It has 20 buttons on it.
I'm going to go look this thing up on Amazon.
Yeah, I should have put the Amazon link for you.
G400 MMO?
Mm-hmm. It's basically the Logitech version of the Razer Naga.
Okay.
Only it's not nearly as much crap, except for the software. I really don't care for the software myself because the thing is entirely programmable.
Yeah.
But yeah, it has the left click and right click as per normal, a middle click on the mouse wheel. The mouse wheel tilts left and right. Then it has a ring finger click for a third button on the top, which looks like the old style mice before they invented the mouse wheel. How the how middle click used to be its own little button. So it looks like that. Then there's 2 more buttons, which I have assigned to DPI changes. And then there's 12 buttons on the side, just to make things obscene.
I don't see the G400 on Amazon by searching for it. Is it gone? Was it like a...
It was a Black Friday sale, so...
They might be gone. I'll Google it. Google will have it.
I'm pretty sure I don't have the wrong model number here. Because if I search G400 and go to images, it's all over the place.
Yeah. Well, the G400 is a mouse. There are, people, lots of Google results for it, so.
Yeah, it's one of those things that it's a little weird to have a bit of a learning curve with a mouse once again, just because of that ring finger click on it, but I've been adapting to it somewhat well. I'm going to Newegg right now where I actually bought this thing to give you a link to it. But it was a Black Friday sale that was I brought it down to about my price range because I'm a cheap ass when it comes to mice. Because honestly, I don't need a mouse that looks like a fucking transformer that's $100.
So it looks like the G400 is the
old
version.
Sorry, it's the G600.
Okay.
I typed the wrong number. That would explain why you're not finding it properly.
Okay.
Or maybe I was looking at the G400 before because I didn't really need the the advanced features of some of the other ones, but the G600 MMO. That would explain why you weren't finding it properly. And it's actually back down to the price that I bought it for on Black Friday. Or I guess I have no idea why it's this price now. Oh well, it's a $40 mouse. Full RGB, so you can change the colors on it. But like I said, what I don't like about it is the software. For one, if you copy a profile to another profile, for some reason there's a bug in the software that makes it so that the color changing on the RGB overwrites one profile to another. Which doesn't sound that bad, but I use the colors on the mouse to tell, am I in my desktop profile or am I in something else?
Yeah, I just posted for comparison purposes a link to my mouse in the chat.
All right. Yeah, yours looks a little weird with the G10 and G11 right there. I would be constantly hitting those.
It's not that bad. You just kind of get used to it. I definitely did hit it accidentally a lot at first because the G10 and G11 are the default quick switch buttons between your pre-programmed mouse profiles.
Mm-hmm.
But
basically,
you just kind of get used to it.
The G600 MMO has a lot more buttons on the side. It moves those G10 and G11 up. By the way, we're looking at Jared's G602.
Yeah.
It moves those to basically just below the mouse wheel, where I'm assuming that's the power switch.
In the middle?
Yeah.
Nope. That is the difference in standard mode and high DPI mode.
See, what I have is have the DPI switch to 2 buttons there so I could turn up and down, and also have in my default desktop mode, a DPI shift button on the ring finger.
Well, since this is a wireless mouse, basically it's an energy saver.
Yeah.
And you can set it basically to normal use, which is green, which I guess that's supposed to be for economy.
Don't you know green LEDs make batteries last longer and computers run on less power?
I I guess so. Um, but and that's fine if you're just like hanging out doing stuff on your desktop. But at least for me, after using it in high DPI mode for so long, it feels like there's mouse lag or input lag with it in power saver mode. So I just leave it in high DPI mode all the time. I've got rechargeable batteries, so I don't really care when they die. I just pop in 2 new rechargeables and charge the other 2.
Yeah, I have. I keep it my mouse actually at fairly low DPI settings for what it can go to. I keep it at 1500 out of 8200. But I
Nice.
have able to shift down to 750 just by pressing the ring finger, and also have a profile that's even below that at 200 DPI if I really need to do fine tuning.
Right.
But I did play everything that I've played since Thursday with it, so that's a little bit of MechWarrior, not a lot, just to get a feel for it.
Yeah.
I like the fact that all 6 of the firing groups can be put right at my thumb, and
Right.
That still gives me 6 more thumb buttons to do whatever I want with. Turning it on and off different visions, setting an override, just be able to pop it with my thumb instead of having to reach halfway across the keyboard.
Yeah.
That sort of thing. And being able to just really edit to do what I want with it. It's a nice feature.
I have a question, and this is probably just goes to your general preferences, but why did you pick wired over wireless?
Well, for one, it was cheaper, and also I've never had a lot of luck with wireless devices. Always some sort of interference that just annoys me just enough.
Yeah.
I mean, granted, the Bluetooth with my DS4 controller has been all right for the most part. There's been some hiccups every now and then, but it's just more, price really. Like I said, I'm cheap.
Right. That's fair. That's fair. I hate wires. Absolutely hate them. I know that there's a tiny bit. It's actually not as bad as it used to be.
Yeah.
Recent increases or improvements in wireless technology have really put them on par with wired mice in terms of input lag and stuff. So for me, it's just I hate wires. I hate clutter on my desk, and the less wires there are, the less chance for me yanking something off of my desk.
Well,
I mean, I yank my headset off my head at least twice a podcast recording.
Well, the way I have my mouse set up actually is that I have on my mouse pad, of course, but then Logitech has this Velcro strap thing that they have on all their wired mice to allow you to just wrap up the cord and use that to tie it off nicely to be able to transport. I have that stuck under my mouse or under my monitor stand, and it's kind of lifting up the wire and acting like a bungee.
Okay.
And then it's just going under the or past the monitor behind the desk and routed into my computer. Which this thing actually draws enough power that I can't even run it directly off my keyboard. Like I did the MX, I want to say 500, the old mouse I used to run. It was an old Logitech mouse that's not even made anymore. So, new ones are like $150, $100.
Yeah.
And that's why I didn't have a backup of it, is that, by the time I was like, this mouse is pretty good. I should probably look to get a backup of it. It's, it was already discontinued. It's like, well,
oh,
fuck.
Man. That is an old mouse. I just looked it up.
Yeah, I got it in like 2010, 2009.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's been a bit of a learning curve with it and just trying to, figure out what to do with all the buttons.
Yeah.
And I am waiting to hear back from Logitech about the bug report I put in with their software. Just with the RGB controls. It's not a game killer. It's all cosmetic. Just because and that's one other thing that annoys me a bit, is that outside of the 3 modes that you can set for each profile has to be associated with a program. So, granted, I could just set it up to a program that will never launch. or just set it up to a dummy file somewhere, in my computer. But yeah, that's something that really shouldn't be,
That's weird. I don't have to do that.
I'm
I'm
also
assuming
running
that we've got the same Logitech.
Logitech gaming software.
Yeah.
I have the newest version of it, so maybe it's something that they changed.
What's your version?
Where would I even find that on here?
Well, when I hover over the icon in my taskbar, it tells me the version.
Okay, I have 8.88.30.
Okay, yeah, you're a couple of versions ahead of me, so maybe that's something that changes. It also might have to do
With the particular mouse?
The particular mouse, because my mouse has a very small amount of storage memory
Mine
to save the profiles on.
Yeah, mine has one profile that has 3 modes on it that could be saved to the mouse itself, which I would love to have it where you could set, import the default profile into the mouse itself without having to recreate the entire damn thing.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, you can't do that. Or if you can, I haven't been able to find it.
I'm not sure how many profiles I can store.
But, it's going to be my main computer mouse, so, it's not going to be something I'm going to be moving around a lot, so that, doesn't really matter all that much. And also, this mouse did get dinged a bit whenever the first reviews came out for it, because the firmware had a slight bug that caused some mouse jitter.
Yeah.
But they fixed that with a firmware upgrade. And the mouse I had actually had the newest firmware, so... Or the mouse I got, I should say, so it's, it's not even an issue anymore.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things that, features that you don't really think about, after losing them, it's like, oh man, I missed that. Like DPI switching.
Yeah. The one thing that I hate about my mouse is that it's not compatible with what is it called? They're one receivers, or they're all receivers, or whatever. Because I've got a ton of Logitech stuff that I use, and they're all hooked up to a single receiver. Because a single receiver can hold I think it's 12 different devices, run it off of 12 different frequencies. But the G602 is not compatible with that, so I have to use the 602's.
Well, if it makes you feel any better, mine's not either.
Fair play. I mean, Logitech is probably the only brand that I'm loyal to. I have never had a bad product from Logitech, or a product that they wouldn't immediately
about
fix.
5 or 6 years, so that's not bad.
Yeah.
Actually, I need to see something on this. What is the weight of your mouse?
I'm not
because this thing is a
sure.
fucking beast.
I'm sure this thing is pretty heavy. At least as far as mice go.
Yeah, I'm trying to find it on here. Because they have the product weight, but that's not exactly the same. Because they say item weight, 15.2 ounces. Well, that's not right.
Yeah, this thing doesn't weigh 15 ounces. At least I don't think it does.
It says between 90 and 130 grams. Or probably 90 without batteries, 130 with. So, want to know something fun?
What?
My mouse is actually heavier by 10 grams.
Well, this says for mine, it's 153 grams with 2 batteries in it.
Okay, well, maybe this one is a different model or something, but yeah. So, a hefty wired mouse, huh?
Yeah, wired mouse usually clock in at 100 grams or less. At least based on the little bit of knowledge that I have about it. It's probably all the buttons, and the G600 series that thing is fat.
Mm-hmm.
Like us.
So shall we move along, or do we want to talk about mice some more?
No. This has been the.
I will say that your mouse
hardware portion of the podcast
looks rather weird with those 2 buttons. It's just one of those things that I'm not sure I would ever get used to.
This mouse in general looks weird, really weird. It's an asymmetrical design, but it's incredibly comfortable.
Well, mine is asymmetrical design as well.
Mine's got like little fangs.
Mine just has a ton of buttons on the side.
You do have more buttons than me.
Well, Well, it has a ton of buttons on the side and then a extra mouse button on the top.
Yeah, you've got way more buttons than me.
Yeah,
but I have fangs.
And I know how to push them.
I'm like like an angry kitty. With my fangs. Okay, I'm done with that.
No, you're not. You're just going to be doing that randomly now.
I'm a sexy kitty. Ah! Oh, my kit. Oh. We have too much fun with this.
Oh.
Okay, let's move along.
Okay, how about a game that has probably the most fitting title that I've seen in quite a while? Disoriented.
Okay.
Think of it as basically a first-person MC Escher game. Well, you've seen Monument Valley, right?
Yeah.
Think of Monument Valley only a first-person perspective, and you can't quite see what the fuck you're doing.
This looks weird.
It is weird.
This looks like a game filled with all of those weird, like, check out these impossible physics puzzles.
Well, it's not really a physics puzzle game, per se. It's one of those things that it's a little hard to categorize outside of just saying puzzle game, because technically it is a physics puzzle game because, you know, you're changing your orientation, but at the same time, it's not really because, to your perspective, you're just walking along. But
right.
I was going to do this for the Sunday sampler, but I hit a brick wall whenever I got to one level that I couldn't figure out what was going on, because in order to, you have a bunch of switches that you could hit on the level to switch around things to open up new paths, essentially. And I couldn't really see what was changing in order to try to figure out the puzzle. And the entire game was more trying to figure out going from one switch to the next, instead of looking at the puzzle as a whole and be able to try to figure it out from there, which I didn't really like all that much. And also, it's a very simplistic looking game, which isn't a bad thing per se, but it's rather boring.
Yeah, I kind of like the art style, but I feel like after, I don't know, an hour, maybe two, if it was really lucky, I'd be like, okay, this is boring.
Yeah, and just nothing really stood out about it to me. It's just one of those things that it should stand out. It should have something interesting going on, but it's more just, okay, I go from one switch to another trying to figure out, okay, what did this switch do, and can I get to a new switch? And occasionally there's these, in order to progress, you have to jump from from a higher ledge to a lower ledge.
Yeah.
And the way they have it set up is that it's a little hard to tell just where those jumps are. But that may just be, it being MC Escher, just the impossible physics and everything going on. It's a bit, disappointing, to be perfectly honest, just because I wanted to like it a lot more than I did. But yeah, it's one of those things that sounds good on paper, but in practice, at least how they did it this time around, it just didn't work out. And also, I have a feeling that it's going to be very short outside of, they're banking on, I think they have workshop support. Actually, they don't, but they have user-made levels somehow, or they have a creation kit in the game where you can build your own levels. And they're trying to bank on a community group of levels being made, but there's nobody playing this fucking game.
Yeah, this says that there's an all-time peak of 3.
Yeah, and I think I was one of them.
Today's peak is 2, with 0 playing now. And according to Steam Spy, it only has between 120 and 1,700 owners.
Yeah, and I have a feeling a good chunk of those are review copies. Which it's always disappointing to see just, a indie game fail like this. And I think it's fair to say a failure because, just those sales. But that really ties into something we're going to be talking about in a little bit. Just the glut of games. Yeah, it's really hard to get noticed just in general. You have to be something extraordinary.
Yep.
Or stir up some controversy. That's another way of doing it. And they just did neither.
Right.
So let's move on to the last game on my list, King Lucas.
This looks interesting.
Okay. The best way for me to describe this game, okay? Imagine I hand you, let's say, a can of Pepsi or something, all right? And a nice cold can of Pepsi. And
Love Pepsi.
And you take a big swig, and it's iced tea.
Okay.
And you'd go, because you have this feeling in your mind, this expectation. Even though you may like iced tea, it's disgusting because you're expecting Pepsi, right?
Maybe.
You know where I'm going with this?
I really like sweet tea, but I do get the analogy you're trying to make.
Okay, now imagine that tea has been brewed for way too fucking long, and it has a ton of artificial sweetener in it. So it has that bitter aftertaste on top of the where it's been brewed incorrectly.
All right, you're losing me here.
That's King Lucas. It bills itself as a Metroidvania game, and I respectfully fucking disagree. It's as much Metroidvania as Rogue Legacy is Metroidvania. It is a rather simple platformer that is procedurally generated with the Binding of Isaac style, where it's a bunch of handmade rooms, and all the rooms are shuffled around on each run. And it is fucking tedious.
Yeah, there's multiple lava rooms in the pictures, or in the screenshots.
I'll get to that. I'll get to that. The runs are very long, even the beginning. Every time you complete the game, get to your objective, rescue the princess or whatever the king is sending you to do, it makes the next run longer. It took me, I think, 15 or 20 minutes to do a 99 room run. All right, which was level 3.
Okay.
The maximum size of the castle, and I don't know when it hits this point, is 1,223 rooms, if I recall the number correctly.
Okay.
I was bored at 99 rooms. The game is way too easy for what it is, and it doesn't really have any depth for what it is.
So that's roughly 12 or 13 times larger. So if difficulty curve stays the same, that means that...
I would say probably 2 hours, 2.5.
Well, 12 times 15...
Well, also...
4 would be an hour.
Well, you also have to realize that there's
3
more
hours?
places... There's more places to hide the princess at that point.
Okay.
Because in 99 rooms, it was essentially an L shape, with only so many rooms in one direction or the other. So you go search in one area, and she's not here, she must be in the other area.
So you could be done theoretically in a few minutes, or it could take you 3 hours.
Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah, it's one of those things that it's once again something that sounds decent on paper, but in practice with how they did it, it just doesn't work out.
Right.
But even worse than that is that you mentioned the lava. There are a lot of death traps, and that is really the only fucking difficulty in this game, because once you get a shield, which, you have to pretty much get a shield because otherwise your health is practically non-existent, and there's no real upgrades in this game outside of getting shields, weapons, and assorted magical items, potions, keys, and that sort of thing. There are no character upgrades, which to me is really important in the Metroidvania genre.
Yeah. Okay, so there's 7 death traps in the screenshots, and 4 of them are lava pits.
Yeah, and the fun part is that some of the death traps are not inescapable. So they're essentially bottomless pits. And I had, an off-screen testing of it, a jump that was exactly as long as my longest jump. So if I jumped even a second too early, I was not making that jump, and I couldn't escape that pit.
So if you fall into a bottomless pit, do you just restart?
You have to
Like you
get
have to quit.
you go all the way back to the start, or if you happen to find it randomly in a barrel somewhere, a checkpoint.
Okay.
I will say that the multiplayer mode may be interesting, but there's nobody fucking playing this game. The multiplayer mode is essentially a race mode.
So race to get the princess from the castle.
Yeah, essentially. Which could be interesting if there was a way to, mess with the other players, but I don't think there is. I couldn't find a multiplayer game over the course of several days.
Well, sir, there are 2 people playing it right now, so
Which
maybe you
is,
could find a multiplayer game.
which I think is 2 more than what was playing whenever I was doing my recording of it. It's just one of those things that it felt like they wanted to do Metroidvania, but matter of fact, they originally had the Metroidvania tag. It looks like they lost it.
Oh, yeah.
But you can see they're calling it themselves a Metroidvania game with 2.5D graphics.
Yeah, and honestly, from the screenshots, I could believe that, but I mean, gameplay seems to say otherwise.
Yeah, it's just they wanted to be Metroidvania, but I don't think they understood what made Metroidvania. Oh, and also all the items that have weapon degradation on them, so you have to constantly be finding the blacksmith, which is a random spawn somewhere in the castle, in order to keep getting weapons and keep getting shields. And without a shield, which depending on the shield you have, it has so many hits on it, you get 2 or 3 hits, and that's and you die. And that's really the difficulty curve, is finding the blacksmith to start stocking up on shields.
Right.
And here's the fun part: is that okay? It has keys. There is no indication of just how many fucking keys you have in your UI. The only way you could tell is to go into your inventory, and it's the launch version of No Man's Sky, where every single fucking key is a separate item for no reason, and you have limited inventory space. And potions also do not stack. Weapons do not stack. Your weapons stay in your inventory. Even if you fucking equip them, they stay in your inventory.
Excellent. That sounds amazingly awful.
Yeah, this was the game after I sat down and looked at my notes to record. It's like, I'm being rather mean to this game.
I mean, it sounds like it sucks.
And that's the thing. I wouldn't say it sucks. It's mediocre at best. If they advertised it as essentially a lowbrow, or not even a lowbrow. Well, okay, maybe some of the villagers saying, because you randomly find villagers in the castle for no particularly good reason outside of they're there. It's a low-rent Rogue Legacy without the castle building and without the character building. So if you like Rogue Legacy, but the platforming in it, but don't like literally anything else that might make Rogue Legacy a good game, well, there you go.
All right. That is not going on my wish list.
And it did make me wonder, am I too mean to some of these games?
Nah.
Or do people enjoy seeing me just start ripping apart a game?
I mean, I do enjoy whenever you dislike games, but I also enjoy whenever you like games, so I think the takeaway for me there is I just enjoy listening to you talk about games.
Aw. Suck up.
I mean, we make a good team. You are the harsh one, and I'm the forgiving one, so.
Just look back at the last game club.
Yeah. Okay, well, does that mean it's my turn?
Yeah, let's talk about Train Fever for a while, or Transport Fever, or whatever.
Transport Fever. Transport Fever. It's very superior to Train Fever.
All right, well, I'm just going to take a nap.
Well, I'm not going to talk for too long about it. Just
there's a shock.
Transport Fever has very quickly become like my comfort game, for the most part, and it also has become a game that I've gotten incredibly invested in, basically completing challenges. So, I spent 7 hours yesterday playing Transport Fever, like 7 hours straight yesterday, playing Transport Fever in the zone. Like, normally I listen to a podcast while I play Transport Fever because it's a game that's good for that once you get the basics down. But I was in the zone. I was listening to the game music, really focusing on making like some good routes because I'm challenging myself to do certain things. Like the map that I'm currently working on is a mountainous map, which will eat your lunch in terms of losing money because you have to deal with so many differing heights, and so you'll have steep gradients for train tracks and stuff, which in the late game is not too big of a deal because your trains are very, very powerful, but in the early game they're not. So you're limited to either really slow trains or really small trains.
I'll just call it a scenic railroad and get all the tourist bucks.
I do like to do that. Will kind of, I don't know, I guess role play or whatever, and make little scenic mountain paths and try and make them look all pretty and follow.
Well, that way you could have a train from like 1900 on the route. Just call it a scenic railroad. There's actually one in the eastern part of my state I think you would absolutely love.
There's one here. You head down to the Chattanooga Choo-Choo, you can take a scenic route.
Yeah, but this is a steam engine.
Oh no, this is a steam engine too.
Ah.
So there's a couple of different scenic routes you can take out of Chattanooga, but that's beside the point. We'll talk about real life trains another time. But I got a perfect map to try and do like a main line, like a legit main line. A lot of my train maps kind of look like spaghetti. I start out with the best intentions, and it's just like, you know what, this line would work best if I went over here, and this one went over here, and did that to that. But this map has a mountain, a huge mountain in the middle, with a river that goes around it and then runs out to the edges of the map. But rivers create valley basins where the terrain is incredibly flat. So I actually made a mainline loop that goes around the mountain and connects all of the towns around the mountain. And I'm currently working on building branch lines off. And it looks really nice, and I'm really proud of myself. I'm very happy. So that's what I was doing, like making it look all nice and pretty and even. And I've got this little station design where that you can put a cargo and a passenger station like side by side in a town. And it just looks like one really big station that takes multiple types of trains. It makes me happy. If we weren't recording tonight, that's what I'd be doing right now.
I don't know. You're not doing that anyway.
Because Transport Fever is incredibly intense on your CPU, especially in the mid to late game. And I don't want to crash the podcast recording.
Well, I'm glad you're showing restraint.
That's basically it. I'm doing this idea as well. I kind of did some testing on it on my laptop, which I'm just playing on a small map because my laptop cannot handle big maps in the mid to late game. And there's a giant lake in the middle that I've built a circular main line around. So it's nice. It's fun. It is a bit tedious though, because it's like, okay, I have to do this and then figure out how to connect other things into this main line. But that's part of the fun. I mean, branch lines do exist in the real in the real life, in the real world, for a reason, and that's the reason. So, yeah, that's Transport Fever. I'm not gonna really talk about it anymore. If I had a good way to record it, I would just record hours of Transport Fever and play them back on my YouTube channel. But XSplit and Transport Fever do not get along very well. The map flashes constantly from black to color. And then OBS, I mean, the game is just so CPU heavy, it's difficult to run a software recording solution with it.
Yeah, basically if I had need a hardware recorder.
That or a much more powerful CPU. If I had an i7, like a 66 or 6700K, I'd probably be fine, but my CPU just doesn't cut it. But that's okay in some sense. It keeps Transport Fever just for me, for fun and relaxing. Katie makes fun of me all the time. She's like, oh, you're playing that again. Our kid's not even awake right now. It's like, yes, I am. It's very relaxing. Go away. The second game I played this week, the second game I played this week is actually an Xbox game. So Friday, Friday night when I was just like, guys, I'm wiped. I just have to like do my own thing tonight and not stream. I sat down in the recliner in the living room, and Katie and I watched a little bit of TV, and then she went to bed. And I was like, well, what do I want to do? I don't really want to get up. I don't want to play anything too complicated. And so I turned on the Xbox and I just started flipping through all the games that I have installed. And I was like, Forza sounds fun. So I loaded up Forza 5 and played it for like 4 or 5 hours Friday night. It was nice. They've added a bunch of new cars, and I had a whole bunch of free cars because, I've had the game for X amount of time, and I'm like level 130 or 140. So I got a whole bunch of cars, gifts from Turn 10. It's like, you are this driver level, you're eligible for this reward car. And there's some nice stuff. They've got a whole Hot Wheels line going right now. So, Hot Wheels looking versions of a whole bunch of the cars. And I got several of those for free because I'm a driver level. And it was fun. I built 2 new cars from scratch and played through some of the unfinished race modes that I had. It took me a couple hours to kind of be like, okay, how do I play this game well again? Because I play in like maximum simulation mode. I have I only use real world driving aids. So I do get traction control and analog brakes. And some cars have what's called stability management, which helps with cornering. It keeps the car level. But not all vehicles have that, so I don't get that all the time. And then I play with no driving line, no driver aids in that respect. And the AI is turned up to simulation, or no, what's it called? I think it's called semi-pro. I'm not good enough to play on pro, but semi-pro is like very hard, and then pro is like very, very hard. Like it's the equivalent of playing on like King versus Deity in Civilization.
Uh-huh.
Like I'm playing on
So they
King.
cheat.
They do cheat.
Yeah, I decided just to see Forza Motorsport 6 Apex. And for some reason, the Windows Store is saying I can't run this game.
Why?
Well, it says that I need 8 gigs of RAM. I have 16. It's not saying I have 16. It's actually, it doesn't know what the fuck I have. And it says I need a whole 2 gigs of video RAM, or 4 for recommended.
That's weird.
Yeah,
you and I, aside from...
Well, here's the thing, is that it's on
difference,
the Windows Store, and the Windows Store sucks.
It does. I have Forza 6 Apex installed. I just have never played it. I don't know why. Another good thing about Forza 5 is it is an Xbox One game that runs at 1080 60 native.
Yeah, which that's a short list of games.
That's a very short list, particularly on the Xbox One, but that's probably another reason that I could tolerate playing it. Or at least enjoyed playing it. But I had a good time, just relaxing, messing around with the cars, tinkering. Built a couple of new ones up, and had a good time. It was a nice, relaxing night. Which, that brings me to my final game.
Oh boy, here we go.
So, as per request, I played No Man's Sky this week.
Yeah,
we did the Foundations update.
We needed a Space Monkey for this.
Oh... It's not.
Well, here's the thing: is that you're foolish to buy this game, so you get to test it whenever they have updates.
Well,
this is your punishment.
I'm not 100% sure exactly what to think. I've thought about this a lot the last few days.
Well, I'm gonna propose a question first.
Okay.
Base building in a game where the whole point of the game is to leave planets to go somewhere else. That seems strange to me. Granted, the base building is probably primarily focused on the frigates that you could get, and not building up a base on a particular planet. But it just seems really weird that that's what they focused on: the base building on planets instead of these mega ships.
Actually, it works really, really well. The base building is super nice, even on planets.
Yeah, but that's what they showed. I would say a good 2/3 of their video that they showed.
Yeah. So, okay, really quick, let me put this disclaimer out before I start talking about it.
Oh boy, here we go.
Some parts of this update were really impressive. Some of it was still really frustrating. I think I said last time, if it brought the like-dislike ratio up to about 75%, I'd probably stick with No Man's Sky. And I think that it does do that. I think that it brings it up to that kind of 75-25 instead of 50-50. But I just have this lingering feeling of all of the bullshit from before. And I don't know if that's just something I need more time to deal with, like with the whole Kerbal Squad thing that happened a few months ago, or if it's just like too little too late. I think if the game had launched with this stuff in it, I would have, liked it much more from the start. The problems would have still existed. I would have been frustrated at it. But like I said, I think it's like that 75-25 ratio now, which makes the game in general much, much more bearable when it is being really shitty. But like I said, I don't know if it's too little too late or if I just need a little more time to pass before I can really settle into it and start enjoying it a lot more. Generally, the update is nice. It fixes quite a few bugs that I had experienced from before. It still frame drops like crazy, which is really frustrating, but the weird flickering that I would get when entering space stations and things like that is gone now.
That's just all the other players in the station. It's causing way too much performance issues. All other before this update it was like 400 players, but I think they're back up to 2,000.
Yeah,
and that's probably literally all the people that love base building that have this game.
It did fix it. The game generally does run at a higher frame rate. It still has frame drops in the same places, but generally before I was seeing like 60 to 65 FPS. Now I'm seeing like 85 FPS. So I don't know what's up with that. I have no idea if it's just optimization or if the game, like when it has to generate new terrain, does a really crappy job of it or what. But the frame rate is higher in general, but it still has frame drops every time you transition between planet and space and whenever you fly too fast and things like that. So I have no idea. That's still frustrating as heck, but I was able to overlook that last time, and I got past that pretty quickly again this time. It doesn't want to launch properly, though. That's something new for me.
Are we talking about the game in general or just this update?
No, the game in general. I'll have to click to start the game.
Well, it did have a rather crappy launch. I mean, a bunch of stuff was missing.
I'll have to click to start the game 3 or 4 times in the Steam window before it actually launches. It does always launch if I go to the .exe and just open it straight from there. So I don't know what's going on with that, but that's annoying. The base building aspect is really, really good. It's very simple, but there's still a lot of depth to it. Like, interacting with the building system is very simple. It's not like Minecraft where you place everything block by block and you have to...
it's chunk by chunk, isn't it, essentially? Prefab units?
Yeah, it's prefab stuff. At the beginning, you have all of the basic stuff that you can just build right off the bat as soon as you find one of the base starting points on a planet. And you can build, corridors and basic rooms and stairs and elevators and things like that. You have to get the aliens to come to your base in order to unlock more base building options. And each alien that you get unlocks kind of a more like in-depth tree regarding like whatever their position is at the base. So you get like a construction expert, and he adds like specialist wings to your base that allow you to then go get like the science crew or the farming crew or whatever. And then they add additional structures and things like that are specifically that you can build. But you get all of the kind of the core stuff right off the bat. The teleporters, every base has one of those by default. A lot of the base equipment, like the save points and things like that you can place down manually, are there by default. So they did a good job of at least not gating off the most important stuff, which is probably why base building works so well. You can plop down at any base structure that you find, claim it as yours, and then build just a quick little outpost there to use as kind of like a hub for exploring stuff that's around you. That's mostly how I use the base building system. I have one base on a planet in a really good system that's got like just a whole bunch of really cool stuff on it, just like nice topography, and it's got some neat animals and stuff like that on it. The planet is basically like a screenshot generator. It's beautiful.
I thought that was the game.
Touche. But that is kind of like my, I guess, home base for exploring the nearby systems, because I don't really care about getting to the center of the galaxy or anything like that. So
let's not go to the center of the galaxy. It's a silly place.
'Tis a silly place.
And disappointing.
And indeed. But so I think that the base building system works really brilliantly for that. Basically, it's like, oh shit, I'm on this planet and there's a huge storm and there's no shelter nearby. You do a quick scan. Oh, look, there's a base hub over there. You run over to it. You claim it as yours. You know, you can hunker down inside, build a teleporter, teleport to the space station, or a couple of other places that it'll let you teleport to. Also, you get a shared inventory between your bases. And as far as I can tell, that goes between systems. I don't know if there's a maximum limit for how far you can kind of teleport your inventory. But your base storage
a little bit more useful.
Yeah, your base storage is shareable between all bases, so that's nice. I haven't unlocked everything yet. Probably the part that they got wrong about this is that you can't just use any race for a specialist position. Each of the races in the game, except for the Master Builder, which can be any race, is assigned to one of the specific races.
Ugh.
And races still don't mix and match in systems, as far as I know. So, if you want to get a science person, you have to go find one of the robot people, whatever their names are, I don't remember. You have to go find one of them that wants to come join your base. And then he'll come join your base. So, that is incredibly frustrating. Because without them manning your special stations, you can't use their particular base building parts. Like, you can see them, but they're locked off. It's like, you need a science specialist to build this part. So that's frustrating, because it's, you know, I spent probably 30 minutes establishing my first base. Like, okay, you know, I built it out the way I want it to look, like the skeleton structure of it. And then I went to go get the Master Builder, and it's like, okay, you need a science guy. It has to be this type of race. And it's like, well, shit. So I spent 2 hours flying around, like system hopping, trying to find one of those guys. So that sucks. Freighters, though, are freaking awesome. They've got some really, really good designs. The first freighter that I come upon, and I was really sad I didn't have enough money to buy it, but it looked like a Star Destroyer.
Oh.
I was like, ooh, I want that, but it was really, really, really expensive. And different classes of freighters they're different sizes. So there are smaller freighters and larger freighters, and obviously the smaller freighters are cheaper and the larger freighters are more expensive.
I would have never guessed that.
And the only thing that I can tell that does any differently is it just gives you a bigger base building area inside the freighter. But even the smallest freighters are larger than the space stations. So that's, in my mind, is pretty crazy. But the freighters are really nice. You can land on any freighter at any time, as long as you don't attack it first. And the captains will give you, they'll trade with you. They'll give you missions.
Then you kill the captain and take over the freighter.
I wish that's how it worked. That'd be a lot easier. But, excuse me. You get missions from them, trade with them. Ships will dock with them just like they do space stations. So you can buy and sell ships inside of a freighter and trade with pilots and stuff like that. So that's pretty neat. They look really cool. And now, as part of the update, there are roaming fleets of ships, as opposed to just like occasionally you find a static ship. Mm-hmm. There's now roaming fleets of ships, which are pretty cool. I haven't seen any like massive space battles. Occasionally there'll be some pirates attacking a fleet of ships, and you can either help kill the pirates for a reward or try and nab some of the cargo and escape with it. But the fleets are a nice touch. It makes the galaxy feel more populated, like there's more going on. Sometimes, I don't know if there's like some kind of hidden stat that I don't know about, but sometimes they will attack you, which sucks, because I've been blown away a couple of times by roving fleets. And I don't know if there's some kind of like criminal record that you can accrue, or if it has to do with like sentinels are chasing you or what, but that's
Or
really
if
frustrating.
someone painted a rather rude word on the side of your ship.
Maybe. Because I'm like, oh, look, a fleet. I'm going to go land on that freighter and see if he's got any missions for me. Well, crap. I rage quit a
He had
couple
a
of times
mission for
because of
you.
that.
Go back to your spawn point.
Yeah, I've rage quit a couple of times because of that.
Yes.
But but the freighters are really nice. I don't really know of any bad thing about a freighter. I don't own one yet, so I don't know if there's what it costs to travel around inside your freighter. But you can go explore all of the areas inside every freighter. None of that is locked away, even if it's not yours. So I've wandered around and explored several different kinds of freighters just to get a feel for what they're like on the inside. And they're pretty cool. Those are really the two main portions that it added.
Yeah, it just seemed like if you're not into base building, this update did absolutely nothing.
That's true. If you still are not into the base building, there's really nothing there. I mean, the freighters are cool, but you still have to do a lot of customization and base building inside of the freighter itself in order to make them really useful. And, again, that's base building. It's still got the performance updates, which suck. It's still got moments that make you want to rage quit because stupid crap happens that doesn't make any sense. You still have to deal with the frustration of, well, if the random generator decides to fuck you over, too bad. Spend another 2 hours looking for whatever it is that you need. Oh, and I don't know what their idea of item stacking in your inventory means, but that doesn't work. They were like, you can now stack anything in your inventory up to 5 times. I'm like, okay, that's good. That means I can stack like these warp cells 5 times in my inventory. I can stack antimatter while I search for the materials to turn the antimatter into warp fuel. That's a negative. Those items still cannot be stacked. You do have larger stacks for the most common materials like iron and plutonium and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Which is like, okay, I guess that's nice, but I never really ran out of that stuff in the first place or needed more space. I was constantly shoveling that out of my inventory because I could just pick it up anywhere on the ground. So, I don't get what's up with that. I haven't tried the 2 new modes, the survival mode, which I probably never will. I don't want to have to spend even more time trying to make sure that I don't
Yeah, I've heard a lot of people say that, it's tedious.
Yeah. And I haven't tried creative mode, but I might try a creative mode game. Just so I don't have to worry about collecting resources for things. I can just fly around and get what I need to. But
I
at
would
the same
imagine
time,
creative mode is probably going to be a lot more interesting in like 2021 when they have a few more updates.
Yeah. So.
Unless you really want to build a pretty base now. The thing that kind of makes me scratch my head is why have fixed hubs? Why can't you just, build your own hub and, put it where you want?
Yeah, I don't understand that. There are buildings that are exactly like the hub buildings that you can build, but they have to be connected to the hub in some way. So I don't understand what the point is of that. Part of me thinks it's like, well, I guess that's to encourage further exploration, but it's just like, probably 50% of the time, whenever you scan a planet from space, it'll pop up and say, oh, over habitat discovered, and it'll pop up a thing on your map. And then whenever you're flying around on a planet and you do a local scan, you find them all the time. They're all over the place on most planets. Barren worlds have less than, really habitable worlds, jungle planets or whatever. But still, I haven't yet found a planet that doesn't have them on it. So if their goal was to either encourage exploration or make it where you want to colonize or base build on more habitable worlds, they're still easily to find on barren worlds. So I don't know what the point is of all of that.
I'm going to just guess they have no idea what the fuck they're doing.
That might be the case. That very possibly could be the case. I mean, overall, this update was pretty solid. And I don't have very many complaints with it that I didn't already have against the original game, and it added a lot of things that I really like and enjoy. But like I said before,
it doesn't address all the complaints with the original game.
No, it definitely still doesn't do that. And even then, it's just I don't know. I just can't quite put my finger on it, but I just still don't feel compelled to play it. And I like I said, I still haven't figured out if it's too little, too late, or if it's um the squad.
Well, there's Sean Murray telling you it's not too little, too late.
Yep, I see. I forgot to put my phone on silent.
You were laughing at me earlier.
I could have swore I did that, but I guess I didn't. An email from Facebook. Screw you, Facebook. So, yeah, that's the.
I mean,
the
it definitely helped their player
update.
numbers, but then again, I'm looking at the chart, and there's definitely a downward trend since this patch released.
I mean, basically, you log back in. If you played the game enough to have a few million credits, you can buy a freighter. Well, that's one.
I wonder if I'm just looking at this. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 days, and then suddenly half the number of people are playing. Do you think it's like about a week's worth of content, and then people got bored with it?
Probably. I mean, I played it for about 6 or 7 hours this past week. And then I was like, okay, that's pretty much everything, I guess. I mean, I could keep exploring and building more bases, or a bigger base.
Or you could just drop the base.
Wub, 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 wub. Yeah, there's about that much content. I mean, if you were like, just barely, like, maybe if you were like, I just like wish that I had just like the tiniest bit of direction. Building bases all over the place could give you that direction to get back into playing it hardcore. But if you're like me and you're kind of on the fence about it, unless, the base building thing really does something for you, which, I mean, if it's going to do something for anybody, it's going to be me. You guys know me. It just doesn't have it. It's got early access syndrome. It's like, okay, well, that was a nice content update. I guess I'll just wait for the next one before I pursue the game any farther.
Yeah, they should have released this game in early access at about a $20 to $30 price range.
Yeah.
That nobody, at least on the Steam side of things, would have complained.
No, I wouldn't be complaining.
On the consoles, they would have probably been complaining left and right, but screw them.
Yeah, fuck them. I mean, if this had been an early access game, I would have been like, yeah, this is a great $30 early access game. I really like, this exploration model. It's got some performance issues, but hey, you know what?
Early
There's
access.
A great base here for.
This pretty much confirms that this game is essentially in early access on everything except for the name.
Yeah. Yeah. If I was thinking about Monty Python and the Holy Grail, they call it the Foundation Update, and my thought was that this was the castle they built in the swamp and it sank, and now they're trying to build another castle on top of that castle and see if it sinks or not.
No, I'm pretty sure that's what Gearbox is doing these days.
Oh.
Claudio Marine's sank. Well, let's build another game on top of it.
Do you have any more questions about the No Man's Sky update? Anything that you think that I should have talked about?
What would you like to see them do direction-wise for patches with this game? If you were Sean Murray and weren't a compulsive liar, where would you say that you'd want to take the next, let's say, 2 or 3 patches?
Well, the next patch needs to address the lack of economy in the game. There really is no benefit to moving stuff from system to system because there's no way to check on what any system is. So sort
of like how Freelancer had it, where you could discover what the prices are.
Yeah. If you could discover what
Freelancer, all the and yes, I realize I'm using an example with a game that's 15 years old now, but it's a game I played not too long ago. So screw you.
Actually, the X series, their model of economy, how the prices change dynamically, and you can once you've been to a system,
demand. That's actually a really good model for a game like this. But the thing is that really requires a lot more of AI to do stuff as well.
Well, I mean, they have AI fleets that warp in and out of systems now, and that pull up beside stations. You have the ability to basically grow your own resources. I mean, there's lots of resources that you can farm, like literally farm. So, you can create hydroponic farms that grow, and it's weird. You can grow like titanium on a plant and stuff like
Wait a
that.
minute.
Yeah, I know, but you can do that in the game. So I mean,
That is one tough plant.
you can use these bases to create production facilities, and then you can actually play into the economy because they talk about, oh yes, you can use freighters to move goods to systems where you could get better prices selling things, but there's no point because you don't know what you're going to find when you get there. The only way to check the prices in a system is to fly there, land at a space station, see what the prices are. So I
have
think
it
that's
where that as you go to different systems, you see the market kind of open up and get semi real time of what the prices are in different systems.
Yeah, it needs that, and doing that would also force them to fix the really shitty galactic map. Just copy Elite Dangerous's map, guys. Come on. Just do it. I know you don't want to. I know that you think that your map is, I don't know, artistic or whatever. But function over form, guys. Your map is awful. So you can set waypoints to systems.
But it blows your mind.
It makes it explode from anger, so I guess. You can set waypoints to systems. So I was like, okay, I need to set a waypoint to the system where my home base is. That way I can always get back to it with all of this crap while I'm learning in the base building system.
So
but you can't set a waypoint. Do what?
So you craft a waypoint.
So you can't set a waypoint to a system that you're in. So I had to fly out of the system and then reselect the system as the waypoint. It took me 15 minutes to do that. Because you can't directly select a system. You can't like hover over a system to get info about it. You have to basically point your mouse cursor in the general direction of a planet and hope that the map picks the planet that you're going to. But the map is incredibly disorienting, so I just had to guess. It's like, okay, I know that it was a system that can jump to this system with my current hyperdrive technology. So I would just like select systems until I finally found it. And you can't select them from your log. If you could just go to your log and say, okay, I was at this system, I want to set this as my waypoint, can't do it. I have to do it from the map. So guys, just copy Elite Dangerous's map. It's so good. That map is so good. It makes my dick rock hard. It's so good.
Oh my.
Just copy that.
Well,
so that would be...
I was going to go over to the Steam store page, partly for what we have coming up, but I was looking at the most recent review. Not recommended. This is someone that's played it for 46.2 hours. This game was so depressing, I stabbed myself. However, the greatest pain wasn't from the stab wound, it was realizing that my stab wound had more depth in this game.
Nice. So, that would be the first thing that I would update, and I don't, however many updates it takes them to do that. That would be the first thing. The second thing that they need is a much more dynamic world, because everything is still static. They're kind of faking a more dynamic world. They added these fleets that kind of fly around in systems and they jump around. And you can't interact with them, but they don't interact with each other. And they don't really do anything except just fly around. They added more aliens to bases and things like that.
So it's the illusion that things are going on. Sort of like how they have the illusion of the multiplayer.
Right. Well, what they need to do is actually make that world more interactive. I mean, Freelancer did it, for God's sake. Just add radio chatter and, more ships coming and going, docking in stations, have some aliens walking around. They don't have to do much, guys. Just let them walk around a little bit.
Yeah, but then they have to make walking animations for them.
That's true. There's not a single walking animation in the game. I don't think.
Well, not counting the procedurally generated animals, which are all like different skeletons and just hodgepodge together.
And that's another thing they can do to make the world feel more alive, is actually make the animals interact with each other in more meaningful ways. I mean, you'll get aggressive
sort of like
animals.
how they had in the trailer where they were moving in herds.
Right.
Welcome to Jurassic Park.
I love that video. Yeah. So that would be the next thing that I'd focus on. And beyond that, I don't know. Without actually delivering on the multiplayer promise, which I don't think that they'll ever do. Honestly, I don't really know how they do that at this point anyways, because the game is so instanced off to you, or to the individuals playing. The only shared thing that they have is like planet names and stuff like that. aside from full multiplayer, I don't know where else you take the game. Deepen the crafting system, maybe make that more meaningful, but doing that kind of takes away from the exploration portion even
it
more.
definitely isn't a full update, but I would say a complete rework of the UI.
Yeah, the UI needs some work. A lot of work. They still have the click and hold thing, which is still frustrating.
Yeah, that would just drive me bonkers before the 2-hour refund window is up.
I forgot about it. I actually forgot about it, and so I went to go change the options around because, of course, they turned on motion blur by default. So I had to go turn that off. I'm clicking, and I was like, this isn't working. It's not working. And then I went, oh, yeah, click and hold. And then, then it turned off.
Yeah, because controllers?
Yeah.
I guess. Hell if I know.
They did shorten the time, which is, I don't know. I don't know if that's more annoying or less annoying. Because it's like, well, I mean, you shortened the time that I have to hold things for it to work. Why not just turn it all the way off? Or only turn it on if I'm playing with a controller.
I have an
Games
idea.
Do that.
I have an idea. And now this is crazy, but work with me here.
Okay.
What if they made it something in the options where you could choose?
Yeah, their options menu still sucks. It looks a little bit better because they added things like TSAA and motion blur options, so you get the illusion that there's more options, but the options menu still sucks. Okay. I need to move on to the bathroom.
You need to go purge?
Yeah, so any final question before I run to the toilet?
No, I think that about covers it, at least for now.
Okay.
But don't worry, we're going to be talking more about No Man's Sky later because, yeah.
Oh, yes.
Matter of fact, in just a minute or two.
Yep, but that's after the bathroom break and the elevator music.
All right.
So I'll be back in a minute or two.
See you on the next floor.
All right, and so we're back from our bathroom break to discuss more No Man's Sky.
Yeah, we've from No Man's Sky bullshit to No Man's Sky bullshit.
Yep. Our first news topic of the day is the ASA finds No Man's Sky ads, or advertising, not misleading.
Bullshit. Oh, sorry. I missed a caught something from you because I have a little bit of a cough.
Okay.
Bullshit.
Oh, you. Okay, so if I understand this correctly, the reason that they ruled on it was because they felt like the thing that was missing, specifically the animals not interacting the way they were supposed to, they didn't feel like that was enough to mislead people. Like they went super specific with it, right?
Well, here's what another thing about it is that they looked solely at the Steam store page, not everything leading up to the launch of this turd. And that's really where they kind of missed the entire point.
Right.
Because they essentially were saying, all those interviews and everything that Sean Murray was giving before he ran off to the Caribbean to start snorting cocaine off hookers' taints, that doesn't count as advertising. Or right. It's more probably, it was the complaint was solely based on the current state of the advertising, and the ASA either may be outside their jurisdiction or it just wasn't in the complaint, the pre-launch advertising. But let's just go ahead and start diving into this. Let's see. Not encountering what is shown in the advertisement. A lot of this is the ASA talks to Hello Games, and Hello Games says, I don't have to explain shit, procedural generation.
Yeah.
That's pretty much their response to everything. Hello Games, from now on, I'll just ignore the abbreviation, explained to the ASA that due to the games being procedurally generated, the probability of finding what is depicted in the ad will be unlikely. Hello Game explained that as each user's experience would vary differently, it would be difficult to recreate the exact scenes from the ad. Well, unless you had that particular seed and you were able to go to that cave.
Right.
Because they found that in the game files.
Yep.
That's the thing, is that they found that in the game files, and you try to recreate that in the game, and you can't, because all the special scripting that they have to make all the animals move in herds and everything doesn't exist in the actual game.
Right. Before we go any farther, there's going to be a lot of this.
Yeah.
I think that the ASA is kind of out of their league on this one.
Yeah, I think they don't understand what's going on.
Yeah.
This may be what Kyle talks about, the law not catching up to current technology. Granted, the ASA is not a law enforcement.
No.
It's a consumers' rights group, if I recall correctly.
Correct.
But it's still the same principle that they're still too far behind to really understand what's going on with games marketing. And also, the ASA may be falling back on the ruling that's been going around that because gamers understand that trailer footage isn't representative of the final game, trailers could lie to gamers.
Right.
Which seems a very circular argument, you know?
Yeah. Well, the ASA did rule against Aliens Colonial Marines a few years ago. And they had to put special... to sell the game in the UK, they had to put special disclaimers on the box and on the packaging that said, the footage or the advertising for this game is misleading, and the game does not match. The final product doesn't match the advertising. Something like that. So they have ruled positively, but Aliens Colonial Marines was very straightforward. The E3 demo and all of the main stuff that they used to sell...
Yeah, the E3 demo was not in the game at all.
Yeah, none of that stuff is in the game.
And you can't argue, procedural generation, don't have to explain shit.
Yeah, and there are certain elements that do kind of match up. Like, for example, the warp speed thing. I mean, that's not horribly off. So I understand why they ruled that it wasn't misleading in that sense. And a couple other things.
We'll go this section by section. We're still talking about the encounters, which I can understand where they're coming from with this, but at the same time, it's not the encounter itself, it's how the encounter works in general. Seeing all the herd, seeing the different animals behave in vastly different ways. When from everything that I've seen in No Man's Sky, and you could correct me on this if I'm wrong, is that animals have just a couple basic behaviors. Either they wander around randomly, or they attack you. That's
generally what happens. There are animals that will attack other animals and kill them. The more predatory animals will kill the more herbivorous type animals.
Yeah, but you don't see them moving around like they do in the trailer.
Oh, no, they don't move around like that.
That's what I was trying to get at.
Together, but it doesn't feel like a herd. It just feels like a bunch of AI standing around next to each other.
It feels like a bunch of randomly wandering things, spawn together.
Right.
So it's not like watching a herd of elephants moving across the wild. It's like if all the elephants just happen to be together and then they start wandering in different directions.
Yeah, it's like all of these animals spawned together when I triggered the generation for this portion, and they're just kind of standing around.
So anything you really want to say on this?
No.
On this subsection? We'll move on to another subsection.
I will say I disagree with their ruling, but again, I think that they're out of their depth. And Hello Games is just sticking to their guns of, oh, it's procedural generation. That means that we don't have to ensure quality.
Well, here's what the ASA said about the not encountering what's shown. The ASA has ruled that the summary of No Man's Sky made clear that the procedural generation, it was expected that players would understand that any video or images used in the marketing of the game would be representative of gameplay that they would encounter, but not necessarily be the same gameplay that they would encounter. The ASA also acknowledged the Hello Games' assertion that the larger battles were more unusual and noted that the footage that they provided were materially similar of a battle. However, Hello Games provided footage of a space battle similar, but not the same as the one shown in the trailer. And remember, this is before the base building update that they added a lot more AI fleets.
Right.
So, yeah, that I would say that's bullshit. What about you?
I agree.
Okay, so let's move on to graphics. Hello Games has stated that the videos in the ad were produced using a gaming PC of average specification based on the standard shown in the Steam survey of typical user hardware, above minimum specs. They said that the quality of the graphics shown in the ad was inferior to the graphics of the game that was capable of exhibiting, and however, representative of the quality of the graphics of No Man's Sky experienced by the average player. Shall we stop right there or continue on?
Oh, this game received such a graphical downgrade from the E3 demonstration. I run with the game on max settings, and it looks nowhere near as good as those trailers.
Well, remember, is there any new trailers for this game, or is it all the E3 footage?
Unless, I mean, we can go check on Steam, but last time I looked, it was still the E3 footage.
And I was just on that page as well, and I didn't see anything new. It's E3 footage, and this, the second trailer I don't recognize offhand. Is this the base building one, or no? That's not the base building one. But yeah, it does look like they changed the screenshots to be some of the base building stuff.
Yeah, they added some of the base building screenshots, and
but then they have
some of the older screenshots.
Yeah, but you can still see a huge difference between like the still from the E3 trailer with the Brontosaurus thing.
Yeah.
Compared to the base building screenshots. Those are vastly different.
Yeah.
Just look at the base building screenshot where, well, and I know, it's probably annoying to say, look at, and you know, I'm referring to a visual element on an audio podcast, but go to the, listeners, go to the No Man's Sky store page and look at the base building screenshot, the very first screenshot in the list. And compare that to the one that has the Brontosaurus, which is the third from the last. And just compare the graphical quality of those two screenshots. Quite the difference, huh?
I mean, there's noticeably more detail in the E3 shot with the Brontosaurus in it.
Yeah, for lack of a better term.
Yeah. And I mean, the game still looks pretty good. It's a much better screenshot generator than it is a video generator. But, I mean, there's still a marked, noticeable difference in the two stills.
Yeah. So shall we continue with the graphics section? Because, yeah, it starts to get good.
Sure.
The videos in the ad were recordings of gameplay from the game, and the static images were in-game screenshots. They stated that the videos uploaded to Steam had a resolution of 1080p and a frame rate of 30 FPS with anti-aliasing. Performance of the game, gaming PC typical of those used by Steam customers would run the game at 1080p with 60 FPS.
Yeah,
but before, definitely not the launch version.
Nope.
Which is what we were primarily talking about here, because this is an old rule or an old case. They noted that the post-release updates to the game that provided further visual improvements. Oh, sorry, they noted that there were essentially post-release patches. They provided screenshots of the game uploaded to a third-party website by a player, which they said illustrated the high visual quality that players were able to achieve.
The game didn't... I mean, I suppose if by post-release updates that provide visual improvements mean make the game work for people, sure, I'll let that slide. And again, I've already said this game can generate some amazing looking screenshots just because of the I don't know, the quirkiness or the type of visual style that they used. Makes beautiful screenshots, but not in motion. So
yeah, and the ASA rulings The ASA made it clear that they understood that the graphical output of the game was dependent on the player's PC and its specs, and it was assumed that the player would be aware of the specs needed to run No Man's Sky.
Which was absolutely false at launch. I mean, you basically just had to get lucky and have the magical hardware combination or like the tech aura or whatever.
You had to hit the Silicon lottery, essentially.
Yeah, because people like TB with monster overpowered PCs could not run this game.
He was so pissed off on his stream when he was trying to run it because it kept crashing and just having terrible performance.
Yeah, and if you had PCs that just met like their kind of recommended stuff, the game wouldn't run at 1080 60, maybe 1080 30. I mean, I kind of hit the lottery and was able to get 60 most of the time outside of the frame drops that it had that I think everyone experienced. So,
it's just, it feels like they're missing the point. You know?
Yeah.
Because the ad footage had been captured using a PC of broadly typical specification for the platform on which the ad appeared, the videos were uploaded with a lower frame rate from the game itself. Well, not that much lower, depending on how unlucky you were with your specs.
Yeah.
Well, I shouldn't say specs, but even just build. It was ruled that the images and footage used on Steam were not misleading. Oh, it's good that we can laugh at this. Mostly because I didn't waste my money on this. And it's also fun that we go to so many fun places with this game, and none of them actually involve playing the fucking game.
Yeah. Very little of the content that we generate around No Man's Sky has to do with playing it. Do you want me to read the next one so that your voice doesn't give out?
Yeah, sure.
In-game warp speed versus ad warp speed. Hello Games explained that there were a number of in-game factors which could influence the warp speed for the player, as well as the player's hardware. The complexity of the system player warps to is an issue. Systems that have a higher abundance of planets and wildlife will take longer time to warp to. In the video and the ad that featured warping, the player warped to a sparse system with a single planet, one moon, and hardly any life. This took 3 to 5 seconds. Hello Games confirmed that they had not edited the video in question.
This is probably the one that I don't mind the most.
Yeah.
Because the warp is essentially the loading screen, which they have to generate everything from, which I kind of see the point with this one.
Yeah. And honestly, I don't feel like that's very misleading anyways. It's like, sometimes it's going to take you longer to warp somewhere because it's farther away, or, your PC's slower or whatever. Like, whatever. I get that one. I mean, their ruling says, Hello Games provided footage that showed the warp a couple of seconds longer than the one shown in the ad, but the ASA understood that this was due to the complexity of the system that was warped to. During gameplay, the ASA even experienced a warp that lasted 16 seconds. They acknowledged that some players have experienced longer warp times, but stated that the ads showing general gameplay differences in speed were not considered to be significant. It was ruled that the ad did not mislead in terms of the game's warp speed. Which I agree with that. Sometimes you'll warp and it'll be almost immediate, and sometimes it'll take a while. The longest warp time I've ever had was like 30 seconds or so, which can get annoying, but that's really rare. I mean, most of the time it's like 10 seconds, and you've loaded up the next system and you're good to go. The next bit, fly smoothly from deep space to planetary surfaces with no loading screens. Hello Games explained that there were no loading screens involved in flying from deep space in a solar system to the surface of a planet.
Yeah, because it's hidden warp drive.
Yep. They said that the environment and characteristics were generated in real time while a player moved through the game, including when they warped between systems, during which time the player could continue to interact with the game. I mean, there are no loading screens. They hide the loading behind that weird filter that they use it like makes everything look grainy. That, and then kind of environmental factors like clouds and stuff to obscure the ground below you. And the game uses, level of detail scaling so that the closer you fly to the ground. But not very well. No, not very well, but I mean, the farther up you are, the less it's loaded in, and the closer you fly, the more it loads in. And those are where a lot of your frame hitches come from. The game just struggles to load stuff a lot of times. Let's see, the ASA ruling. The ASA explained that they were aware that the warp screen used could be considered a loading screen. However, as the warp is used only to travel between solar systems, this was not misleading, as it is still possible to travel from deep space to a planet's surface without a loading screen. The ASA also stated the warp screen was not a loading screen, as it didn't interrupt the gameplay experience due to it being consistent with the gameplay before and after initiating the warp. The warp is the only thing close to a loading screen in No Man's Sky, because it was shown in the ad. The player was therefore aware of it before purchasing, and so was not misled. I'm okay with this one too. It's like, still, they're just like using little tricks to hide their loading screens. And, you don't actually have to stop and wait for something to load wherever you go. There's no loading, please wait. So, I really don't have a problem with that one either. The next one.
I think what I have the most problem with isn't even listed here, and what they never even looked at was what was promised but never delivered.
Yeah, what wasn't present at launch that was promised.
Mm-hmm.
So the last one that they have listed before the final ruling, factions vie for territory. Hello Games explained that the story relating to the factions would be uncovered as the player explored the universe and interacted with faction-related NPCs. No, you don't. Hello Games went on to say that solar systems were controlled by a single faction, and when interacting with an NPC from a particular faction, they would sometimes mention a dislike of the other factions. No, they don't. There was also the chance to partake in battles between factions. No, there isn't. And supporting one faction in the fight would increase the player's reputation with that faction. Hello Game chose the word vying as it indicates the ongoing struggle. No, there isn't.
So in other words, they outright lied, and the ASA's ruling?
There is a player reputation system, but it has nothing to do with interacting with the other factions. It's just you do quests for them, and if you complete the quests, you get improvements, and if you accidentally do something that pisses them off, like fail a puzzle, then you lose reputation.
Maybe this is Sean Murray, his voice was a little muffled.
Let's see, the ASA ruling. The ASA understood that consumers would understand that there was more than one faction, with each faction holding a certain territory, and some aspects would relate to tension between the factions. The ASA also understood that players could engage in space battles by siding with one faction during the battle. No, you can't. And that this played a role in the player's reputation with that faction. No, it doesn't. Noting the explanation from Hello Games, the ASA ruled that the description did not differ from the relevant gameplay feature. Yes, it does.
So, in other words, the ASA was lied to, and they believed them.
To me, this is the most egregious one that they list. The graphics are a pretty big one too, but I think because of my personal feelings about graphics, I don't really give a shit about that. But I do really care about the fact that one of the major gameplay elements being essentially faction warfare, for lack of a better term, doesn't exist at all in any way. So that
it's like saying, well, I'm going to go back to Freelancer once again. There was faction warfare essentially in Freelancer, but the different factions never took over other places.
Right.
But there were still skirmishes.
Well, there's not even skirmishes here.
And the full ruling, which will be in the show notes, has a lot more, including trade convoys between stars. Talking about that.
Yep, those still don't exist unless that's a hidden function of the new freighter fleets that fly around. But it would be hidden. Like, nothing is ever mentioned about trade convoys in the new update.
Yeah, it's the ASA talking to Hello Games and Hello Games lying about a few things, and that was that.
Yeah, they didn't mention multiplayer at all, did they?
Nope. Well, hang on. That's because on the Steam store page, look, single player, Steam achievements, full controller support, Steam Cloud, and that's it for the tags.
I thought No Man's Sky was originally marked as multiplayer.
If it was, it's not anymore.
I feel like it was, but I could be misremembering. I'm not going to put any stock in that. My memory's not the greatest.
I'm looking at the tags, and even the tags have dropped a multiplayer if it was there. Granted, the tags are being trolled. Here's the tags on the Steam No Man's Sky. And it starts off good, then it starts to get weird. Open world, space, exploration, sci-fi, first person, procedural generation, adventure, survival, single player, sandbox, atmospheric, space sim, indie, crafting, action simulator, first person shooter, Illuminati, psychological horror, great soundtrack.
Some of those are more applicable than others, and then you get to Illuminati and psychological horror. All right.
Yeah, so they're getting trolled a little bit there, but the fact that it mentions doesn't mention multiplayer at all anymore is quite telling.
Yeah. So, I disagree with the ASA's ruling.
Really?
I'm not sure if that's because they went too broad and tried to go after too many things. So even if they had, at least in what's, even if they had said, well, we disagree with this, would they have had too many things to have actually enacted something? Or were they just completely out of their depth? And
I think they were a bit out of their depth, and they also focused on, well, for one, talking too much to Hello Games and not doing research themselves, it seems, because it's Hello Games flat out lied about a few things, and that was that.
Yeah, I think if they had done like 5 minutes of genuine consumer research, that they would have found a lot of things to slam Hello Games with.
The fact that they were focused on what was on the Steam store page itself and not the pre-release hype. They didn't look at all the stuff Sony produced, all the interviews that Sean Murray had. I mean, hell, Sean Murray did the talk show circuit about this game.
Yeah, I remember him being on Colbert.
Yeah.
On Stephen Colbert.
I mean, the fact that he was on Colbert talking about No Man's Sky. And how many of the things that he said on Colbert were false?
I don't remember. A few. More than a few. Because he talked about multiplayer on Colbert. Or on the Colbert Report. Was it the Colbert Report at the time? Or did he have the late show?
I think it was that was his late show. Because the Colbert Report's been gone for a while.
Okay.
Can you imagine the Colbert Report nowadays?
So on the late show, I know he talked about multiplayer. Because I remember Stephen Colbert specifically saying, wow, this sounds amazing. Can you do this with other people? And then Sean was like, yeah, you can do stuff with other players and in the game.
You could always tell when Sean Murray's lying. You know how?
How?
He's talking.
Figured it was going to be that.
Well, no, it's more that he's awake, but still.
He's breathing. Okay, do you have anything that you want to add, or do you want to
well, let's do the final ruling real quick. And I'll read this. We understood that the screenshots and videos in the ad had been created using game footage, and acknowledged that in doing this, the advertisers would aim to show the product in its best light. Bullshit. Taking into account the above points, we considered that the overall impression of the ad was consistent with gameplay. Wait, there's gameplay in this? I thought... And the footage provided, both in terms that was captured by Hello Games and third parties, that it did not exaggerate expected player experience of the game. We therefore concluded that the ad did not breach the code. And you're strangely quiet.
I'm popping my knuckles. Just listening.
I'm sorry, but I can't read that with a straight face.
Oh.
The fact that they're using their E3 trailer for advertising on their Steam page, or at least they were at the time. I'm pretty sure that they still are, right?
Yeah, they are.
Yeah, how is that not misleading?
I'm just shaking my head. I realize you can't see me. I'm shaking my head. No. Oh. Okay. I'm ready to go talk about something else. This is making me sad again.
Well, do you think the next topic's going to make you feel any better? I mean, really?
Maybe. Our next topic, 38% of all Steam games were released in 2016.
Yeah, that's a hell of a percentage, isn't it?
Yeah. Steam's got... I gotta pull up the news article on it. Steam's got several thousand games.
Well, this was just a tweet that was originally put out by Steam Spy. Right. Which I'm probably going to try to find a better link for this while we talk about this. But yeah, 38%. This was released a few days ago. So, obviously it's going to be maybe even 40% by the time that the end of the year rolls around.
Well, I mean, the farther you get away from listening to this video, the more out of date these numbers are going to be. But currently, where it sits, 38% of all of Steam's games released in 2016 so far. That's 4,207 games.
Yeah.
That's more games than the first, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
I would say going all the way to 2014.
Yeah, that more games were released this year than the first 10 years of Steam.
And trust me, I could see a definite decline in the... Well, I'm not sure if it's a decline or if it's just the fact that, that I'm seeing a lot more crap. And, trying to find the gems is starting to feel like swimming around in sewage for a diamond in the rough,
Well, Steam has never had quality control.
True.
Ever. And used to, the only way you could get a game published on Steam was to be a big enough publisher to be able to do so. And then they started allowing sort of high-profile indies. And then they started making it easier for indie games to get on as long as they had a publisher or could pay the self-publishing fee. And then in, 2014? Is that when Greenlight started?
I think so.
And then that made it essentially you pay $100, you get enough votes, you get on Steam.
Yeah, which honestly, the $100, it is nice that they give that to Child's Play.
Yeah. But
I wonder how much money they've raised for Child's Play that way.
Probably a decent amount, because not all games that get submitted make it onto Steam. I mean, I know that's only like a few games, but not all of them make it, guys.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, and that's when things really exploded. Greenlight made it so that, you get enough votes, you get on Steam. And huge sort of, not exactly publishers, but groups of people who would basically accept payment to guarantee your game gets on Steam cropped up. And so as that has been happening, more and more games make it onto Steam through Greenlight. Plus, in general, I mean, there are just a lot more game releases, period. More studios, more publishing studios.
I would say a bigger glut of indies and AA games.
Yeah, that's what that's what I was trying to go for. There's a lot more AA games. And I would say
this was actually
games.
Not a great game or a great year for AAA games in general. There was a lot of really bad releases, and honestly, the games in general felt a lot less polished, even after their crappy releases and getting fixed.
Yeah, I mean, there were still a few diamonds this year. Doom and...
Well, I gotta mention Civ 6, otherwise Kyle will hunt me down.
Yeah, Civ 6 was a good release this year. Those are games that have come a long way. I was going to say The Division, but it didn't release well, but it became a better game through constant
and
updates and attention.
Supposedly their DLC makes it a lot better at the max level.
Yeah.
Where it's a survival mode.
Mm-hmm.
Or a better survival mode, I guess I should say, because the game is technically a survival mode anyway.
Yeah.
But, but that's not a release. That's, what happened post-release, their post-release support.
Yeah. Battlefield 1 was supposedly a really good release. I mean, I haven't played it, so I can't confirm, but
I was just disinterested.
Battlefield 1 was one of the best shooters that released this year.
I didn't hear anyone really complaining about Call of Duty's performance. It was more the substance of it.
Yeah, a lot of people didn't like the content.
But that's more, Call of Duty trying something different. I think.
Yeah, it's kind of sad on that. We're dangerously close to getting off topic, although that's not new for us. But Call of Duty, is kind of a victim to itself. Like, Call of Duty has built this thing that is sustained by basically being the same thing every year with very tiny changes. And there's been a larger and larger cry: innovate, innovate,
And
make
then
real
they innovate.
change. And they really innovated. This Call of Duty was, I mean, for a first-person shooter, was vastly different. It had like side missions and a hub area, and they added the entire space combat system with both fighter controls and in space sort of like
Yeah, I
jetpack
will say
fighting.
that everything I've seen about the new Call of Duty, granted, I have no interest in the multiplayer, but the single player actually looks interesting.
It
Shame
looks
it'll
really
never be
interesting.
discounted enough for me to really support buying it because, Activision.
Yeah. But I mean, it looks really interesting and innovative, and people like shat all over it. So
Hell, the launch trailer for that was just downvoted all to hell.
yeah,
For really no good reason outside of, being different.
yeah. But so there were a few AAA releases that released well this year. But for every one, we could list off several others that released poorly or were at best mediocre. So not a good year for AAAs, but AA's and indie games had a
Yeah.
stellar year this year. Almost every good game I can think of was either a AA or an indie.
Hmm.
I mean,
Yeah,
all of my favorite games from this year were AA and indie releases.
yeah, same here. Either that or technically not yet released because they're early access, but they released on early access this year.
Right. Like, I mean,
Things
all of
like RimWorld, for example, is I would call that an indie game, but it's in early access as well. So
Factorio.
yeah, Factorio. Well, a AA game that I really liked recently was The Dwarves.
Yeah. Transport Fever's a AA game.
I'm just looking at my Steam library, trying to pick out things, or my recently played games, I guess I should say.
Yeah. So, I mean, it was a good year for
Well,
indies.
Kerbal.
And yeah, Kerbal released this year. That's an indie game. Although, with how big it is,
Yeah,
I mean,
AA.
yeah, AA.
So it's definitely been the year of indies and AA's.
Yeah. I'm just curious as to how long that this growth can be sustained before Steam falls apart under its weight. Like,
Well,
Steam is
the main
really
thing, the main problem here isn't the number of games. It's Steam's search is just terrible. It's hard to find something.
yeah.
And the Steam tags are not helping whenever you have trolls putting Illuminati and psychological horror on anything that's crappy. See No Man's Sky.
Yeah. They really need, and we've said this quite a few times this year, I'm sure we'll keep saying it. They need a curation team to go through and basically start from scratch. Just throw everything away, set a curation team on it, and put them to work. It would be great if they were in-house because they can guarantee consistent results, but I'm sure they could outsource this to the community and just give them some rewards, give them some Steam wallet money or some big discounts outside of normal sales or something like that.
They would have to, if they give it to the community, they would have to have a huge vetting process, though.
I mean, yeah, they should have some sort of vetting process, some kind of test that you have to take, or, have good behavior, have some way to show that you have good behavior or whatever.
How about this? How about you're only able to tag games that you actually own, so you can't go through and tag like No Man's Sky with psychological horror if you don't own it.
That would
for this system.
Yeah. So you still go through the vetting process, but you're only allowed to enter information on games that you own. And then maybe they have a separate curation team that does stuff that nobody owns.
Yeah, have an in-house team that does the more obscure stuff, or it would at least cut down.
Yeah, that would work because then they could have a very small in-house team. I mean, even one guy could probably
That
keep
poor
up.
intern.
Yeah, that one poor intern could probably keep up with a lot of the new indie releases or the really obscure stuff. Because I mean, I would go through and spend some work on especially for some incentives, Steam wallets or discount codes that never expire or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
I would go through and do some work on the stuff that I have in my library.
I hesitate to even touch my library. I'm still trying to sort my unsorted games.
Yeah. Eventually, what's going to happen, though, is if they don't come up with some way to fix it, curation system being the best bet, they might come up with another option that we're not thinking of to
the
be kind of a
closest
close
thing
second.
that they have right now is the curators.
Yeah.
But that doesn't really work all that well because a lot of the curators are information based about bad things.
Yeah.
The frame rate police being one of them.
Yeah.
So that's yes, that is important information, but it's not the information that they want.
Yeah. But what's going to happen, though, is if they don't come up with a solution for this, is eventually Steam is going to become known as a cesspit where garbage games go to die. And it'll take a while for that to happen, but Steam's kind of good faith darling relationship that they had is starting to wither away, especially this year. I think the process kind of started last year for people like you and me who really pay attention, but yeah. I've seen a lot more general negative press about Steam this year than I remember seeing in the last several. And a big chunk of that is because they just have really crappy curation and really crappy customer service.
I'm just going through my curators, and a lot of them are informational based. But not recommending particular games. It's more warnings,
right? So,
I mean, hell, Total Biscuit is still the top curator, and he has just under double of PC Gamer, which is second. But Total Biscuit also has 2 of the top 10 curators.
Yeah. I follow both of them.
Mm-hmm. Which we definitely need to update our curator.
Yes, we do. But that's another point for another time.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I really don't know what else to say about this. I mean, like, to me, that's crazy. Those are crazy big numbers. But
well, this also kind of ties into what Jim has in the community corner, which we could talk about now, is that some of these shovelware games, what they're really doing is trying to make money off the Steam market by just putting out Steam trading cards.
Yeah, there's a YouTube
video that he linked.
Did he link to Tarmac's video?
I'd have to actually go look.
There's a YouTuber that I subscribe to. He's a pretty small gaming channel that does a lot of indie news, but he also does like a discussion topic every week, and he had a really long, well thought out, in-depth video about this issue. And the guy's YouTube channel is Tarmac.
And I didn't grab the link when I was on the Twitter, so I'm heading over there right now to grab it. So I'll be able to tell you in just a moment. As soon as I find Jim's... Okay, there it is. And it is Tarmac, yeah.
Yep. Go, everybody go watch that video. It explains this way better than we could.
Yeah, it'll be in the show notes. Assuming I don't forget.
All right. Well, are you ready to move on to the next news topic then?
I think so.
All right, let's go talk about the 2016 game advertisements. Awards.
The cringiest night in video gaming. What?
Oh, the Schick Hydrobot. Best and worst part of the whole show.
It's one of those moments that I was watching it. I don't remember taking any drugs before I started this. Then I looked down at the coffee, tasted it a little bit. It's like, does it taste funny? I don't think I slipped anything in this.
Yeah, this awards show was awful.
If it was any worse, it would have to have Spike TV in the corner. They stopped producing this the video game awards. Well, what it was before, the Spike TV Video Game Awards, I believe it was called.
Yeah,
on Spike TV because it got so cringy. And the first year was, it wasn't bad. It had some faults, but I watched Total Biscuit's video on the Video Game Awards, and I think he really hit the nail on the head. And it's something I hadn't considered, is that they have made this such a big event, and they've rented out this huge theater that have to shield, they have to kind of make it cringy to really be able to pay for it all.
Right.
They have to get these musical acts and try to entertain the crowd. And honestly, they had 3 acts. One was video game related, playing video game music. And I never even heard the other 2 fuckers. Have you?
I didn't watch the whole thing. I came in and out of it. Once the VOD worked, because originally the VOD on YouTube got a copyright strike for the
music, which was hilarious, by the way.
But once they got that sorted out, I kind of turned it on and listened to it in the background while I was doing some paperwork. And I'd stop and watch it every once in a while, especially every time the Schick Hydrobot came on, because he was amazing and I love him. But so some of it I saw, some of it I missed. I don't remember the music acts; they did not imprint upon me.
Oh, it was terrible. I was trying to figure out what the hell this has to do with video games. If the music acts had their music in games, I would understand, but at least from everything that I could find and was told in the videos that I've watched about this, because I haven't watched just TB's video, I've watched a few people talking about this. Outside of the Doom playing Doom music, the other 2 groups had absolutely nothing to do with video games whatsoever. I mean,
who were they?
I can't even remember. That's the thing. They were so forgettable. The only thing I remember is the cringe.
Yeah.
I remember one tweet talking about, hey, who let Big Smoke onto the stage for the rap group? Which the mix on all the music was actually terrible. The tracks just sounded like one was way too loud and was drowning out all the others.
Yeah.
And in Total Biscuit's video, he actually pointed out that one of the rap songs, they had a drummer in the background, but the music had no drum track. So they spent the entire act sitting there. It's like, okay, what about the guitarist? Is he in this? And they were watching, and it's like, no, he's not in this. So they were either miming or they were playing. The mix wasn't right. One of the 2.
Maybe both. That's funny. Yeah, I didn't even notice because I wasn't looking at him.
We talked about the Schick Hydrobot. Oh, the advertising in this was just terrible. I know, you love the Hydrobot, and you're going to marry him someday.
Yeah, he's going to be my boyfriend, my robot boyfriend.
Boy, that's going to be really awkward on the podcast. Because the bot doesn't talk at all. It's just going to sit there. You're going to be talking about yourself now. You're replacing me.
That's fine. He'll help keep me hydrated. He'll keep my skin nice and hydrated and smooth.
Oh.
Although I guess I'll have to shave. I'm not sure if I like this idea anymore. I don't want to shave. I do need to trim my beard, but the Schick Hydrobot can't help me with that unless he's got an electric razor attachment.
But, okay, well, let's talk about the winners real quick. We won't do a complete breakdown of this, but they kept talking about, well, we don't have enough time to announce all the winners, and whenever a particular game would win one award, they would say, it also won Best Esports Game and Best Family Game and Best whatever. Okay, yeah. You're complaining about not having enough time, but then you have 3 musical acts. Yeah.
And all these weird little advertisements with the Schick Hydrobot.
And not just that, but the Assassin's Creed movie, which... Why did you have to remind me that's a thing?
Oh, I hope the Assassin's Creed movie is going to be good, but I don't believe it will be. I'm just saying. I'm whispering so I don't hurt its feelings.
But, before they even started it, in the pre-show, they gave out Best Mobile and Handheld Game and Best Family Game to Pokemon Go.
Yep.
Which, okay, so they're giving it to a walking simulator.
Mobile and handheld, okay. Family, okay.
Get the fuck out of the house.
I have to say the biggest problem that I have with this award show, that problems that I don't usually have with other award shows, because other award shows are based around community voting, and it's like, how do you quantify that?
Mm-hmm.
But these games, the awards that they had for these games, like, they had a panel that specifically gave the awards to the games. I want to know why. Why did they award,
Well, also...
all of these games their awards?
Hang on. I want to know who exactly is on the panel, because I think a lot of this is the panelists giving awards to each other. Because you have industry leaders on the panel. And wait a minute. That's like a bunch of directors on the Oscars giving best director to one another.
I know Reggie Fils-Aimé was on the panel. I remember hearing that a week or two ago.
I mean, I realize that the Oscars is voted on by the SAG members, but it's also an absolute huge group that's voting. And then they narrow it down and have the judges. But
they list the reasons why that things win an Oscar. It's like, this won an Oscar for this thing because of reason whatever. They didn't have any reasons for any of these games. It's just like, we decided this game won this award and this award and this award. And some of them are kind of like, okay, I get that. Like, best mobile handheld game for Pokemon Go? Sure. I could see where people would disagree, but that game had a huge impact this year. Makes sense that you award it to it. But best family game? Why that?
Okay, the following publications submitted ballots. Oz Gamers, which I never heard of. Edge, EGM, Entertainment Weekly, because I go to them for video game news. Eurogamer, Famitsu, Funhouse.
Oh, Funhouse?
No, it's not. HAUS.
Yeah, Funhouse. That's they're affiliated with Rooster Teeth.
Yeah,
they're like their specific gaming division.
Game Informer, GameSpot, which is shown to be very. What's the proper term for this? Well, GameSpot and IGN both have been kind of weird on how they review games. Games Radar, Giant Bomb, Gexel, Jatsu Video, Gotaku UK, Mashable, Level Up, Mary Station, which I never heard of, Multiplayer.it, Polygon, which is a pillar of the community.
Yep.
Rooster Teeth, Sprayly Tips, which I also never heard of, the Los Angeles Times, USA Today, both of which I go to for all my video game news, Wired, Waypoint, and UOL Jogos, which I've never heard of.
I've not heard of most of those.
Granted, I could be just butchering a lot of these, but yeah, it's a lot of this just seems like they're picking the AAA game of the year, or the game that is the most well known and not the best. I mean, perfect example: Pokemon Go. That's That's the family game of the year, the RPG game of the year, and it's the same issue I had with the Golden Joysticks. Went to an expansion pack for The Witcher 3.
Yeah,
but then there's redeeming moments of the game, or of the video game awards, where they have these really impactful moments. Like, did you watch the acceptance speech for the Dragon Cancer?
Yes, I just wanted to go give that man a hug. Like, just give him a big hug and be like, "It's okay, buddy. We all love you here."
Yeah, so I can't, want to throw out the video game awards completely because of touching moments like that. But then it felt like they didn't understand the impact whenever they were talking about, the nominees.
Yeah.
Because they had the same bow, trying to be upbeat and chipper while talking about a video game. This was before his acceptance speech. That, it's about his child dying of fucking cancer.
Yeah.
I mean, at least be somber about this. All the games in that category, be somber about them.
Yeah.
You don't have to be upbeat the entire time.
Yeah.
And then they go to the commercials.
Yeah. Just need the Chick Hydrobot to come make it all better. Should have given the dad from that dragon cancer a hug.
That would have been so cringy.
I would have loved it. I'm going to ship them now.
Oh, God.
That dragon cancer dad and the Chick Hydrobot. I'm going to write an erotic fan fiction. Actually, I'm not going to do that. That would be horribly irreverent and insensitive. I honestly really do love that dad. Like, I just want to give him a huge hug from the bottom of my dad heart.
Kyle could do it instead.
Yeah.
And they didn't even award the best fan creation. They nominated 5 games or 5 projects, and 3 of them either were taken down by Nintendo, or
Nintendo.
They took down 2 of them.
Yeah, I was gonna say Nintendo took down 2,
and then the other one got hit with a cease and desist. So they couldn't even award that. And I have a feeling that Nintendo may be behind that because they had a huge section of just talking about Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. They talked about it once in the pre-show and then gave it, about 5 minutes during the show itself?
Yeah, and it was the most anticipated or most...
Yeah, and most anticipated.
Yeah, game of the year, so...
Which, that's a fan voted one, so...
Yeah. And then they always did they do this every year with the best esports player and team and the trending gamer or celebrity or whatever.
The trending gamer going to Boogie, I have no problem with. They highlighted some of the stuff that I absolutely hate about Boogie. His Francis stuff.
Yeah.
Because, to me, Boogie is almost 2 YouTubers because he has his Francis stuff, that, I hate to, I can't even call it parody because, honestly, it's just, repeating what a lot of people do online ramped up to 11. And there's no commentary on it to me.
Yeah.
And then you have the Boogie I like, where he's talking about the industry and talking about issues in his life. That's what I prefer.
And other serious things. I mean, he's got a lot of serious topics that he talks about. And Boogie is a huge voice for reason in like every controversy that ever comes up.
Yeah, granted, sometimes I find that he's very soft on the subjects whenever, he tries to play both sides when, honestly, it doesn't really feel like there's a way to do that fairly.
Sometimes, but...
Without, feeling like you're pandering way too much.
Yeah. But... Boogie's a good one, though.
Yeah. And I'll be perfectly honest, out of the trending gamers, I only know of him and Angry Joe, and no, not Angry Joe.
I really like Angry Joe.
Angry Joe comes off as almost as cringy as the Game Awards at times.
Angry Joe is a character.
I know.
He suffers from kind of like the, I think with you, sort of a good comparison would be like Jim Sterling.
Yeah.
Like the character.
Where I could understand and agree with something Jim Sterling could say, but just the way he says it.
Yeah, I mean, listening to Angry Joe or just Joe talk about things whenever he does guest on like podcasts that I listen to.
Yeah, that's why I like
the occasional serious video.
It's the Boogie problem where I like some of his stuff. I like where he's not playing the character, but when he's playing the character, I can't stand him.
Yeah. I do like the Angry Joe persona for reviews, but outside of that, whenever he does other videos in the Angry Joe persona, I don't like those. But I think it makes reviews comical. But that's beside the point.
So, okay, here's going to be an interesting one. What would you change about the Video Game Awards outside of, for you having the Chicago dancing on the stage for 3 hours?
I would drop absolutely everything that I possibly could that wasn't games related. Dump the music acts, they just cost money, which require more sponsorship time, which means more other sponsors that aren't the Chick Hydrobot. And just focus in a lot more on the games. Also, explain the reason, because they do a lot of panelist stuff too. I mean, I know that there's some
Yeah.
votes and everything, but they do have a couple of panels that decide the nominees and put together the votes and everything, and give reasons for why games win categories. Because this is not a massive, hundreds of thousands of people vote, so you can't really have a reason other than it's just popular with the people. So tell us why. Why did the experts, or whatever you want to call them, choose this game to win this award? That's one of the things that I love so much about, for example, the arbitrary awards that Total Biscuit does, and that
Total Biscuit goes in depth.
He goes in depth on everything and why he chose one game over another one, and he even spends some time talking about what the games that he kind of nominated to choose from. And I really, really like that. It adds a certain degree of weight to an award.
I think for me, the first thing I would do, I would drop the venue. I would have this be an online only.
You mean like a web-hosted thing?
A web-hosted thing, because it already pretty much is.
Yeah.
Everything, the stage and all the rental is essentially just bring in the industry when they really don't need to do that, because they could do it as a web-based award show to begin with.
Yeah. I mean, any old asshole can put together an award show, so...
well, look at us.
Exactly.
How about this? No. Work with me here. Partner with Twitch.
Ooh, that would be good.
There's your money.
Yeah.
You could still do your music acts, but tie the music acts into video games. Have it be one group that I thought of immediately that did a song on a game I played recently, Blind Guardian. They did a bonus song for the Dwarves.
Yeah.
Bring them on and have them play that. Have groups that's been in video games in the last couple of years come on and do their song. If you have to have music, because I understand that that does give spacers and brings in more people, the fans of the groups. So do things like that. I don't think that you have to drop all the advertising and everything, but don't make it don't have the fucking Shikadra bot dancing around.
But I love the Shikadra bot dancing around. No, I understand. He's super cringy. I happen to be one of the few people that are in the minority of people who love shit like that, so.
Yeah.
I get it. I've got my Shikadra bot videos I can watch on YouTube. You can drop him. I do agree with your web thing, though. Drop the venue.
The venue has to be the lion's share of the cost for this thing.
Yeah.
I mean, granted, that does knock out some people that are coming to the awards to have the experience. But honestly, how many awards did they actually give on the main stage?
Not many.
So many of the awards were on that little side stage that they had, or just mentioned. When Overwatch won an award for, I think it was best soundtrack or visual design or whatever the hell, they mentioned like 2 or 3 other awards that it won. And they never gave the presentation for that. It's just, it also won these awards. That just takes away the impact of those awards.
Right.
Giving awards away in the fucking pre-show, don't do that.
Yeah.
If you don't have enough time to give the 26 award, 25 because they didn't give away the fan creation, cut down on the number of awards.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Granted, I'm not sure where they would be able to cut down without starting to cut down genres. Best VR game, maybe. Best mobile handheld, maybe. I could understand games for impact, but that really requires a lot more discussion on the topic. What does a game for impact mean, and why does That Dragon Cancer win over Orwell or whatever other games were in that category? That's the only one that I could remember offhand. What is it about Orwell that made it a contender? If any category needs an explanation, Games for Impact has to be it.
Yeah, I agree.
And just really condense things down. Yes, you could still have a 3-hour show, and you could still have your guests on, but instead of renting this absolutely huge venue, have a set.
Yeah. Or just do, Skype with a green screen. It's not that hard.
Hell, Total Biscuit, when he won the Trending Gamer, he called in.
Yeah.
Or sent a video in, one of the two. So
that would be fine too.
Especially for YouTubers like that, or YouTubers and Twitch players, because that's what the Trending Gamer is. Unless I'm completely mistaken on a couple of the people that I don't know, they're online personalities. I mean, I understand, esports player, you probably went there, and some of the industry you'd want there. And maybe that's the whole thing, is that it's giving the industry something to feel good about. When honestly, having the Chicago bot, I'm coming back to that so many times just because that is like the cherry on top of the cringe sundae here. But it's not just
cherry.
But it's not just that. It's all the categories that are sponsored. Have the AMD whatever category, or what was the other one that was that they had going on that was just it was these huge sponsored categories that just felt so out of place. I think it was the esports one, but it doesn't mention the or the sponsorships on the article that I'm looking at for the list of award winners.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, it's not on the other one either. That has some of the nominees.
Yeah, which I can kind of also mention. Let's talk really quick about the announcements and all the trailers. There was actually a promise that there would be a lot more gameplay this year shown. Where was that? I can remember 2 games that had a significant chunks of gameplay played.
One of them was Legend of Zelda.
And the other one was Mass Effect.
Yep.
Not counting trailers that has, blink and you miss it, seconds of gameplay. There was no real segments showing gameplay.
Yeah.
And it became, just companies running their trailers. And the fact that towards the end of the show, they started rerunning the ads. They had the Hearthstone ads, both of them, play twice. To give you an example.
I wish that they had shown more about Guardians of the Galaxy. Get hyped! Woo! Guardians of the Galaxy from Telltale. It was a cute teaser, though.
Yeah, the licensing mill that is Telltale these days.
I'm very happy with them milling out Marvel games. If this is a success, I'd love to see a whole slew of Telltale Marvel games.
Yeah, but
Telltale Doctor Strange, Telltale
you better
Captain
believe
America.
that it would happen if Guardians of the Galaxy is successful.
Oh, I'm buying Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah, but you're not pre-ordering, are you?
No.
Okay, good.
I'll wait for them to release all 5 episodes at once so that I don't have to wait, and then I'll buy it.
Yeah, which honestly is about the best way to do a Telltale game.
Yep. So are we done talking about the Game Awards, or?
I think so. Is there really anything else to mention?
I don't think so.
I think the focus needs to be more on the games.
Agreed.
And that they're losing their focus. That they are trying to be what they stopped the Games Awards being on Spike TV for. Where they were just going further and further into the cringe territory.
Yep. And as much as I love the Chick Hydrobot, he should not be the most memorable part of the award show.
Well, also the fact that they gave the best fighting game of the year to Street Fighter V when, that was a complete disaster on launch.
Yeah.
Granted, it's gotten better over time, but that was the best fighting game? Really? And before we go, any categories you strongly disagree with?
I don't think so.
Game of the Year, Overwatch, with Best Esports Game as well, and Best Multiplayer. And also Best Studio Game Direction for Blizzard for Overwatch. So Overwatch came away with a bunch of awards, but they were only mentioned twice.
Yeah.
Best narrative, which what the fuck does that mean?
Yeah.
Uncharted 4, A Thief's End, and Best Performance, Nolan North winning the Nolan North Award for Best Performance.
Yeah.
Best Art Direction and Best Independent Game being Inside. Games for Impact, That Dragon Cancer. Best Mobile/Handheld Game and Best Family Game, Pokemon Go, like we mentioned before. Best VR Game, Res Infinite, which no idea really, so I can't really comment on that. That may be a category that they could cut for a few years.
Yeah. VR's not ready yet.
And somewhere you could hear Jim twitching.
He'll live.
Best Action Game and Best Music /Sound Design for Doom. Best Action Adventure Game, Dishonored 2, which not sure if I really agree with that, with how crappy it's running so far.
Yeah, how new it is and how poor a launch
actually
it had.
Okay. Here's something that we should bring up real quick. Should performance issues be overlooked for how a game is when it comes to awards like this? Should the fact that Street Fighter V launched in an extremely bare-bones state and had to be patched several times to add content into it matter for best fighting game?
Yes, performance matters. I don't think we should overlook it.
Yeah, at least we could agree with that.
I mean, I could see them, again, this is why they need to explain things. I could see them still giving a game an award despite the performance issues, because for whatever reason, like that Dragon Cancer, it had a lot of issues with the sections of the game that were not just experiencing the story. A lot of really crappy gameplay. But that game is so powerful in its narrative and so visceral that absolutely I can see giving that game an award despite the problems that it has. But I think the problems need to be considered.
Yeah, I completely agree. But this also comes back all the way around. So games that just come out shortly before the cutoff date would be at a severe disadvantage.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because a game that releases in February, let's pick one almost at random, Street Fighter. I think that released in February or very early in the year.
Yeah, it was like February or March.
It would have a distinct advantage over fighting games that released later, because it just had more time to, become a playable game.
Right.
It released February 16th, so I was right.
But I mean, I still think that's fair. I think performance is hugely important because how well a game performs affects how well it plays and how well the players enjoy it.
Mm-hmm.
So, I think it would be irresponsible to overlook performance.
Yeah, but they allowed the Chicago bot in. Somebody was very proud of the design of that costume.
I'm very proud of the design of that costume.
And I don't think it was just the fact that the Chicago bot was there. It's just the segments around it, the almost infomercial level acting.
Yeah, it's wonderful.
That's what really sold it as the cringiest moment for me. But I think we're done here.
10 out of 10. Would watch again. Chicago bot. Best Performer 2016.
Well, at least beats most of the AAA's games in performance.
Chicago bot. Make America smooth again.
Velvety smooth.
Okay, so are we done talking about the Game Awards?
Yeah,
all right,
we're done here.
And it's time to slide on over to another bathroom break. After which we'll be back to talk about Community Corner. Until then,
to another floor.
Enjoy the sounds of the elevator. All right, welcome to the third floor, where it's time for us to talk about Community Corner this week. This week we had one last-minute audio submission, and then we'll be moving on tweets and stuff. But our audio letter this week comes from Kyle. Here's Kyle.
Greetings, J. Arthur and Caffeine Rage. This is Kyle coming at you with a solution to an audio letter that I sent in a few weeks ago. A few weeks ago, we touched on Valve and gambling and loot crate systems and how that's technically possibly a negative value proposition, and the state of Washington is having issues, not to mention the CSGO betting sites, yada yada yada. But there is a solution that I think could potentially work and would make the loot crate system not gambling. See, I got the idea when I was out with my lovely girlfriend, Meliora, at a restaurant that shall go unnamed, but I'll use a fake name just in conversation, Buffalo Wild Things. At the end of the meal, we were given the opportunity to partake in a holiday special as far as pricing goes for gift cards. And the idea was, for every gift card you bought, you essentially got a lottery ticket that after, I think, like 4 hours after you left, it would activate, and you would get anywhere from between $5 and $100 on that gift card in tiered amounts: 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 50, 100. Now, obviously, I don't know the odds on that, but here's the thing. That's not gambling because we were buying the gift card if we took that deal. And the lottery piece was actually just, something that was tacked onto there, so it wasn't gambling. Now, what Valve could do is they could completely axe the paid for a random box scenario that they have going on right now with the loot crates, and what they could do is if you buy, say, a trading card or something, you would get a certain number of points that would eventually add up to a box. And by doing that, you're actually untying the loot crate system from any sort of world currency. It's just kind of a reward system. And by doing that, you actually avert the whole value lost, upside down value, and negative value monikers that have gone along with the Valve loot crate system. So to put it simply, it's not gambling in this case because what you're buying is, let's say, a Highlander axe for Team Fortress 2 or what have you, and then you get a little receipt that says, okay, 2 more of these and you can get a loot crate. Because you're buying the axe and not the lottery ticket for this, it's not gambling. And so if Valve did that, they would actually probably be okay. And how do I know this? Well, because the FBI wasn't kicking down Buffalo Wild Things' door while we were there, because, I'd like to think that they know what they're doing. Then again, they've partnered with EA to raise awareness about Titanfall 2 on all of their drink napkins, so maybe they don't. I'm not sure. Anyways, this has been Kyle, and I'm not really sure where I was going with this, but hey, gambling and a solution. Hooray! All right, y'all have a good night.
Thank you, Kyle, for your last-minute addition to the show this week. I don't really have a ton to add. I mean, Rage, you said you had
It's an interesting idea. Instead of having it be a pure lottery buying in, and technically not gambling by Valve's terms of things, where you're always getting something, instead of having being a value added, is an interesting idea. Another way I've seen it done, or at least somewhat modified from the Overwatch model, is that, okay, your crates also give you a currency that you could use to buy whatever you want. Well, in their selection, I should say, because I don't think everything in those crates has a currency value to it, but it's the same general idea.
Yeah.
Instead of having it where you're buying the crates directly, well, you're still buying the crates directly in Overwatch, but with kind of merging the two ideas. How about having it where the crates could drop, but there's also that currency that you could use? Some sort of melding of the ideas here. There has to be a middle ground that is still profitable, which that's the main thing here is I don't think a lot of companies are going to break away from the crate model until they absolutely have to, assuming if they have to. Just because it is a widely profitable market, because, you put something very cool, very rare, you're going to sell a lot of crates because people want that.
Right.
I mean, hell, yeah. Rocket League started.
Yeah.
Yeah, the cancer has spread that far. Okay, cancer's probably a bad choice of words, considering what we just finished talking about, but still.
Fair play, but I mean, we all know what you mean. At least I hope we do.
It's like early access spreading to everywhere. And to the point that we're getting early access AAA games. see, Street Fighter V.
Yeah. Early triple access games.
Yeah. Pay 3 times to be able to play the game.
Yep. Okay, well, I mean, like I
you
said,
don't really have anything to add?
I really don't have anything to add to that. I mean, like, I like Kyle's idea. I think that's really good, and I hadn't thought about that before. And I also like your little addition to it, but I don't really have anything else to add to that conversation. Like, yeah, that sounds good. Let's do that.
Yeah, you're being very helpful this week. You're just sitting over there fantasizing of the Chicago bot.
Yeah, that and wondering how long until I have to go to the bathroom again.
All right, well, let's go ahead and dive into the question of the week then.
Sure.
All right, the question of the week this week was one of my general questions that I had saved up. What is your favorite original song in a game soundtrack?
Ooh, I missed that question this week.
Good one, huh?
Yeah.
And that's knocking out things like saying a random song from like Fallout 4, for the Fallout soundtracks, because those are not original songs for those games.
Yeah. I know.
You want to chip in?
Yeah, I know. I know what mine is right off the bat. The song, the sort of, I guess, intro or title song for Oblivion. That kind of really big, sweeping, orchestral.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Song. Just because it sets the tone for like, okay, this is going to be a grand adventure. And I can't wait to embark on it.
Yeah, see, I have a few that I could think of offhand, like the it's a console game. That's probably gonna surprise you. The starting music for Final Fantasy IX.
Oh, that's a good one. Yeah.
You know exactly the one I'm thinking about now, huh?
Mm-hmm.
You're probably hearing it in your head if you've played that game a few times.
Yeah, I've played through Final Fantasy IX a bit. Not my favorite Final Fantasy game, but it is like in my top 5. So, yeah.
Well, I've only played. I've played 5 Final Fantasies far enough that I could say that I could rank them. I've played a bit of Final Fantasy 12, but never got too far into it. I never got over that hump where the game starts to get good.
Right.
I do own it though, so I need to try it again at some point. But I would say Final Fantasy IX is my favorite out of the group. And yes, that includes me playing Final Fantasy VII first.
Final Fantasy VII is not my favorite Final Fantasy either. My favorite Final Fantasy is Final Fantasy VIII.
I didn't care for Final Fantasy VIII just because of the combat system.
Yeah, see, I really liked the combat system.
Yeah, and the story kind of left me behind at some point.
I think Final Fantasy VII is my 3rd favorite Final Fantasy. It's 8, and then 10, and then 7 probably.
Oh, if I had to rank below 9, that actually gets difficult for me. I didn't really care for 8. The story just left me behind, so that's going to be ranking low. Final Fantasy X, the voice acting knocks it down a few pegs for me. So I would probably go 9, 7, probably 10. Then it's a toss-up between 8 and 10-2.
Yeah.
Because 10-2, it's that weird Charlie's Angels. You'd probably love it if
I do love it. I do love 10-2.
I do. You would love it just because it is so
the dress sphere.
No, it's not even that.
System
it's
and
so
like
cheesy.
It is. I love 10-2. 10-2 is, let's see, for me it's 8.
10-2 was also the revival of the job system.
Yeah. 8's number 1, then 10, then 7, then 10-2, then 9.
Ooh.
That's my top 5. And I actually like Final Fantasy 13.
I haven't played Final Fantasy 13. The last one I played significantly was 10-2.
13 is, honestly, it's really bad in the beginning. But if you suffer through the first...
So it's Final Fantasy 12 syndrome.
Yeah. If you suffer through the first sort of third of the game, it becomes an entirely different game. But I don't blame anyone who can't make it through that. It's pretty bad at the beginning.
The first third of a Final Fantasy game, that's a hell of a hump.
It's like 20 hours. It's a brutal 20 hours. And then the game opens up and becomes something different. But I mean, like I said, I don't blame anyone who can't get past that.
And also, Final Fantasy 13 is more of a trilogy than anything else.
Yep, there was Final Fantasy 13, 13-2, and then 13 Lightning's Return, which was 13-3. I've played all of the mainline Final Fantasy games except 12 and 14, I guess, the second Final Fantasy MMO.
Yeah, well,
and that's including the original Japanese ones. I'm a big fan of the Final Fantasy series.
Yeah, I really should try Final Fantasy 13 at some point. I need to dig out Final Fantasy 12 or just download the ISOs and try those. Because, that's also... It seems like the modern Final Fantasies... Granted, I have read really nothing about Final Fantasy 15.
15's getting good reviews pretty much across the board. Even
does it also have the hump, though, that you have to get over?
No. Not that I can tell from the reviews and the early content I've watched.
So it breaks the cycle where a lot of the modern Final Fantasies have this big hump that you have to get over before it starts to get good.
Yeah, no, that goes by really fast. Unless you choose to stick to the starting area to do as much as you can. Kind of that whole, if I leave, I can't come back thing. But that doesn't apply to Final Fantasy 15. You can come back, so. Yeah.
Well, I'll toss out a couple of other ones I thought of offhand with this. Jonathan Colton for Portal and Portal 2, his songs there.
Yeah.
Which those do count as original songs.
Those are cute, yeah.
Which you haven't heard the one for Portal 2 yet. I don't think. No,
I haven't. Yes, I think I have. I think I've heard it separately.
It's a lot better once you have it in context.
Right.
And also, I would say the ending song for Plants vs. Zombies.
I've never actually heard that.
I'm going to have to link you that then.
Probably some other ones for me right off the top. Just about everything from The Legend of Zelda around the Ocarina of Time forward is really good. I mean, not everything, but a lot of it is really, really catchy. Like, if you handed me an N64 controller today, I could still whip out the Ocarina and play a bunch of those songs just because I remember them and they're really, really good. Like the Song of Storms. I really, really like the Song of Storms. There's an excellent dubstep remix of Song of Storms as well. It's great.
If I wanted to be very industrious, I would build a playlist out of all the songs that are being mentioned, but no.
Yeah, it's too much work. But if someone in the community wants to do that and give it to us.
Yeah, and you need to check this out at some point. I'm not sure right now, but it's a very catchy song.
Okay.
But more responses, since that is what this is actually about.
Yeah, we should get back to that. I do have to go to bed eventually.
Yeah, same here. Let's see, Billion Lights, the Final Fantasy VII Victory sound clip. After all those years, I still whistle it when I've achieved something. Let's see, Groove, single song, Assassin's Creed 4 main theme, simply just awesome. Best playlist is Tropico 5. I'm not sure if that counts, but I haven't listened to Tropico 5's playlist.
Yeah, I haven't either.
I started going through the tutorial for it, but I haven't spent enough time with it yet. So, and we have a new person, Super Saiyan Lion.
Awesome.
Which I'm pretty sure this took about 5 or 6 episodes for him to type out. Rules of Nature from... Sorry. Yeah, but we appreciate you. Please come back. Rules of Nature from Metal Gear Rising. The whole soundtrack was great, but the placement of that song was amazing. Which I really can't comment on that one. The Metal Gear series is just so daunting to me that I never tried it.
I've never played Metal Gear Rising.
And then Chemist, I found the question very difficult to answer. As good original soundtrack is more than just a single song. It has to be treated as a whole. But then I remember Undertale's Heartache and how it just broke me at one point where I sat and tears, refusing to play for a long time.
Undertale's got some really good music.
That's been a game that I've been actively avoiding just to play it at some point. But I'm a little worried that at this point, I've heard so much about it that, going into it, I'm still going to have that expectation.
Right.
Then on to the actual tweets. The B team has started linking food again.
Yeah,
did you see that?
No, I saw that this week.
Oh. Try and just make me hungry, I guess. Let's see. Then Jim's video about scam games and how they sell their games very cheaply or just give away keys to make money off the Steam marketplace, which I hadn't really considered, but it makes a good point.
Yeah.
Chemist was asking why there was a weird Podbean admin link in the description, which I've mentioned. It's just the way Podbean did a URL, and I did the show notes on Podbean first and then copied everything over to the main RSS feed and just fixed the formatting, so I didn't have to type everything twice. And that meant I grabbed that weird URL as well.
Right.
And then Ghost Shark, just before we started recording, sent you something that I'll add here. He wanted to tell me that he semi-agrees with me on the whole Overwatch thing from last week, where Overwatch, if I recall correctly, it wasn't. He thought it was going to be just as good if it wasn't a Blizzard game, and I disagreed with him just because Blizzard was able to spend more money and market it better. It was made awesome from being Blizzard's up to Blizzard's high standards, but I'd found it and loved it even if it wasn't made by them. Well, that's the thing, is that marketing is a weird thing, because look at Battleborn.
Yeah.
That didn't really get marketed that well at all.
Nope. It did not.
So you really can't say that you'd find it nonetheless. Because there's a lot of great indie games out there that just don't get grabbed like that. They just don't get the marketing. Especially with just how many games are on Steam these days. And just how many get added on a daily basis. Or, well, I guess I should say a weekly basis, because it's really just during the weekdays. It's just a glut of games. It used to be a game would stick on the front page for quite a while, but now, it's on there for maybe a day.
Yeah. Maybe. Depends on what day.
But yeah, thanks for that, Ghost Shark. And that wraps up the tweets. And if you wish to send us tweets, you can find us over at VGL Podcast on Twitter. Or send emails to us at vglpodcast@gmail.com. It doesn't have to be audio. We do read text letters and stumble through them.
Yes, we will read. We promise. Okay, well, let's move on to the next section of our show. This week, a special kind of announcement and overview of the upcoming VGL Awards. So yeah, since we've made it a year, and especially, I guess, since, our year anniversary is at the end of a year, we are going to do our own little awards show. We came up with some categories, which we will read out and explain here in a minute.
Yes, we've captured the Schick Hydra bot.
Yeah, baby. Get a 3D print out of him. Gotta be able to buy him somewhere.
He's tied up in a crate right now. And if you and you can buy a key for $2.99, and there's a chance that you may unlock him.
I will spend thousands of dollars to get the Schick Hydra bot. But anyway, so yeah, we're going to do our own award show. We came up with 10 categories, which we'll read out and explain. And the way that this is going to work for us is that each of us are going to have our own, basically, winners. We're not going to do like nominees or anything like that. Just each of us are going to have our picks, which we will read out and discuss and explain why. But we're going to involve the community. Rage, you said you were going to create a Google...
Yeah, I'll create a Google form, so you'll have the ability to type in your choices for each of these. And we'll, depending on the number of nominees, we may have to pick and choose, or we'll just read off the list.
Yeah, if we only get a few submissions, we'll probably just read everybody's. But if we get a decent number, 20, 30, more, hopefully more, then we'll kind of try and compile the most popular suggestions if there's any overlap.
Yeah, I'll tweet it out a couple times, the form, and also I'll be in the show notes for the next couple weeks.
And then Kyle and Kimmis, you guys each get to submit your own nominations, which basically we'll just read off. We might talk about them a little bit.
Or we
if
may
you
just
wanna-
kidnap them and have them on the show.
We might. We'll have to talk to you guys because we're not really going to be able to be flexible since this is going to be recorded the week before Christmas. That's right? This is going to be for the show that releases on the 23rd.
Yeah, this will be the 20th recording to go out on the 23rd, which also happens to be our 50-second record or 50-second episode, not our 50-second recording because of some freaking content and stuff.
Yeah. So, we won't really have any flexibility in that. Oh, there's my kid.
Well,
I gotta go.
No flexibility, you gotta go.
Yep, with Katie sick. I'll be right back. All right, I'm back.
Welcome
Just
back.
a nightmare. All right, so where were we?
We were talking about the VGL Awards.
Right. I think the last thing that I said was that we don't really have any flexibility just because of the recording date, but
Yeah.
if we could get Kyle and or Kimmis on, that would be great. If not, just submit us your picks.
Yeah, which let's get into the categories.
Right, so our first category is the best release of 2016. So best release game of 2016.
Yeah, and are we going to be including games that have improved? That's up to you guys, I think.
Yeah, you can decide. I mean, we'll allow, like, for example, The Division being an example we used earlier this episode. Even though when its release, it wasn't super great, that game has improved a lot. And if you feel like it's improved enough to be the best release game of this year, by all means. These are very, very personal.
Yeah.
Not objective awards. Our second category is the worst release game of 2016.
Yeah, I think we know where this one's going.
Probably, for us at least. Our next category is favorite game played in 2016. So this
does not have to be a game released in 2016. This is just something that you had to play in 2016.
Correct. So, yeah, I mean, that's pretty self-explanatory. Least favorite game played in 2016. Again, doesn't have to have been released in 2016. You just hated it the most.
Yep.
Our next category is our best non-gaming item for the year. This can be a physical object like, I don't know, a computer component or a car that was released this year or really whatever. It also can be an event.
Yep.
And I don't really know how to give an example for that. I don't know what the best event was of the year.
Congratulations, you got laid.
Yeah. Did that a few times this year. Then we have the inverse of that, the worst non-gaming item that happened or came out this year. Probably know where this one is going to.
Yeah, pretty much. At least for us. Because I can see the list.
Yes, that is very true. Then we have our best gaming moment of 2016. Again, it doesn't have to have been a game that came out in 2016 if you experienced that moment in this game. It can also be something related to gaming that's not exactly in a game. I don't really know how to give an example without giving away my response. But
same here.
Yeah. But it doesn't just have to be something that happened in a game. It can be something that happened or that you experienced because of a game. So, just best gaming moment of 2016. Then we have the inverse of that again. Worst gaming moment of 2016. Same sort of thing. Doesn't necessarily have to be something in a game, but it does need to be gaming related.
Yep.
Then we have a category specific to us. Best Game Club game of 2016. So
I'll go over the Game Club games real quick.
Sure.
Bastion, To the Moon, Papers, Please, MechWarrior Online, Path of Exile, Alan Wake, Skyrim, and the current one is Crimson Skies.
Yeah.
Which we'll include that one.
What'd you say?
Let's include that one as well.
I was going to say, I mean, we will have played it before, and it'll be in the next episode where we talk about it, so...
No.
Will it be that episode?
It will be the episode after that.
Okay, yeah, okay, that's what I thought.
Remember, Game Club's the last Tuesday of the month.
Right.
So we'll talk about the week after that. So if you don't like any of them and you've enjoyed Crimson Skies, well, there you go.
Yep. And then our last category is biggest surprise of the year. And this could be anything. Literally the biggest thing that surprised you this year. I can tell you that mine was a game, but, it could have been an event that happened in your life or that happened in the world.
Congratulations, you got laid.
Yeah. It doesn't have to be positive, but I think this category is probably going to lean more towards positive.
Especially with some of the other ones.
Yeah, it can be negative, but ultimately it is up to you and also to us. So, yep, the VGL Awards 2016, our first ever.
Yeah, maybe we should
awards.
give Kyle $1 so he'll do a little trophy on a post-it note so we can fax it to these people. Well, we're applicable, of course.
We'll send PDFs to the people that don't have fax lines listed.
Oh, if they don't have a fax line, they don't get it.
Yeah, that works too.
Actually, in the business world, I think fax is still pretty common.
Nah, I don't know. Maybe. I mean, we don't have a fax line at the clinic. The last job I worked at didn't have a fax line. And they were, actually, the last 3 jobs I worked at didn't have fax lines.
Okay,
2 of them...
maybe we could get Kyle to just take a picture of it and we'll send a JPEG.
We'll send it to him on Twitter. Hey, you won the VGL Awards this year. Here you go. Here's your award.
And to make it even more crappy, best or game of the year or best release, gets the cleanest one. Then have just Kyle write everything in pencil and just erase it every single time. So by the time we get to biggest surprise, if we send it to someone, you can see just how tattered the post-it note is.
It'll be a mess of uncolored lines and erasure shavings.
It's kind of fitting for us, isn't it?
Yeah. All right. Well, that covers the categories. Remember, there will be a Google form.
There'll be a Google form that it should be in the show notes unless something happens,
Yep, and of course we will talk about this. We just have one more week until that episode recording, right?
Yep.
So yeah,
we have the 13th, and then the 20th is the VGL recording, and then the 27th is the Crimson Skies recording.
Yep. We will talk about this again next week, of course. One final incentive to get community members to send in things is that be sure, and I guess Rage put in a form for this that has either your Steam user ID or an email address connected to your Steam account so that I can send you a free game. I still have, I believe, 13 games left over from the last Steam sale, and I, of course, will be purchasing more games to give away on this Steam sale. And so to give everybody a heads up on the game giveaways, anybody who submits and gives me their Steam username or an email address where I can send them a game key to, you will get a free game.
All right, so I'll have to make note to do that. And this the recording will end just shortly before the winter sale as well.
Yep.
Let me just make note to do that. Because you kind of sprung that one on me.
That's true, I did. I have faith in you, though. We'll fix it in post.
Yeah, we're doing it live.
One week I'm tempted to post a completely unedited version of the podcast, aside from syncing the 2 tracks. Just so people can appreciate me.
I think at some point we have to do a live recording session.
Yeah, we definitely do.
Granted, it would be at like midnight Eastern time. And it's not like one of us is a Twitch streamer or anything.
Nah. I'd do it, though. I'd do it.
All right, well. I think that brings us up to, shilling our stuff that we didn't... Well, no, we got the Steam Weekly Deals, then shilling our stuff that we didn't get to do last week.
We do, but I would gladly skip the Steam Weekly Deals. There weren't very many good deals.
Yeah, I kind of was scraping the bottom of the barrel myself.
Yeah, I was.
Do you want to skip them for time?
Let's skip them for time. They sucked anyways. Fuck them. They really did. We had just listeners. We had a very brief conversation before this where we complained at how poor the Steam sales are.
And we have talked about skipping if there was a bad week. And
yeah, and I mean, like the good games that were on the list, we've recommended before, and we were going to recommend them again. So, fuck them. All right. Well, then that means
let me make sure to remove that so I don't add that to the show notes.
Yeah, just go ahead and delete mine too. And that means we're on to the portion of the podcast where I get to go first. Well, if you want to follow me on YouTube, you can look me up at Gaming Psychologist on YouTube. And content coming out on the channel, we have Divinity Original Sin, which I have already rendered the 3 episodes we recorded Saturday.
Yeah,
Rach,
same here.
When do you post yours so that I post them on the same day?
Wednesday and Saturday.
Wednesday and Saturday.
Yeah, you're putting them up like 2 days early. It's like, okay.
I think I did Tuesday and Thursday.
It must have been very early Tuesday then, because it seemed like it was a way before mine.
I think that's what I did. But
I may be mistaken on that.
Well, then I'll set them to release Wednesday and Saturday. So I've got that. I've got the remainder of our Portal 2 content.
Yeah, that's also the thing, is that you had Portal 2 to work on.
Yeah, but I've got all of those rendered as well. Sunday was a render day for me, so I've got all the videos ready. So those will be going up this week. Obviously, if you're listening to this on Friday or really any day later than that, most of those videos will have come out in the past. Go to my YouTube channel, Gaming Psychologist. Check them out. I have not had time with everything going on to work on new reviews. I am very saddened and sorry by that fact, but things are starting to wind down. I've got a whole bunch of clients working their way out of the clinic because, they're students and stuff like that. So hopefully this week I will get some time before the in-laws get here to write and record a couple of game reviews to post. Don't know about Sunday. This week is not exactly looking bad, but I've got a couple extra things going on, just going into the holidays, getting ready for them. So I'll try and have a review this Sunday, but it might not happen this week. But I do have other regular content now, so I'm not too worried about getting the reviews out, because that was kind of the only regular content I was doing for a month or two.
Mm-hmm.
But I do really enjoy doing reviews. They're one of my favorite things to write and record, so I want to get back to doing them ASAP. That's it for the YouTube channel this week. If you want to follow me on Twitter, where I tweet about all kinds of things, last few days have been some Transport Fever tweets. There'll probably be some more of those. But I tweet about all kinds of stuff. Politics, cars, weird people that come into the clinic, other things in my life. You can follow me at Twitter at JMA4707. You can see all of those weird, wacky things that I tweet. There might be some stuff about the Schlick Hydrobot.
Oh God.
Or the Schick Hydrobot.
You're going to cosplay as it, aren't you?
Nah, it'd be too much work to make a costume. Forget I'm lazy.
Who said it was going to be a good one? It's going to be cardboard boxes and a little razor on top.
Fair enough. And then if you want to watch me stream games, going into the holiday season, things are going to be a little bit wacky, but I do stream games over at twitch.tv/jarthur4707. Try to do it as regularly as possible, but sometimes life gets in the way. And if you want to be my friend on Steam, I accept all random Steam friend requests and just hope and assume that y'all are awesome podcast listeners who just want to chat with your favorite host. And
obviously, because I don't get added.
My Steam username is jarthur4707 on Steam.
And if you want us to let them know exactly what episode you're coming from, the password, making up for last week, is medication. Medication.
And also, remember, we're picking up new listeners to the show. Obviously, we're having new Twitter users, or Twitter followers who tweet at us. I always like it to make it known I am a real psychologist, a real marriage and family therapist.
Yeah, you don't just play one on the podcast.
And I don't just play one on the podcast. So if you have some problems in your life that you need to talk about, you don't know where to turn, you can come talk to me. I make a joke about charging Steam trading cards to talk to people on Steam, but that's just a joke. You don't have to actually pay me anything. I will be a listening ear for you. I can help direct you to any services in your local area as long as you're willing to share where you live and help point you in the right direction.
And get a pizza.
From Frank's or not Frank's. But, I'm here for you guys. I love all of you and the little community that we built, and I like to take care of you guys. I have had people who've talked to me in the past, so you would not be the first, and I won't say anything more about your identity other than you will just become one of those people who's talked to me in the past. So, you're more than welcome to come talk to me. All right, Rach, what about you? What's going on for you on your channel this week?
Well, I'm still pretty deep into Warhammer 40k Space Marine. It's starting to wrap up in the last recording session I had, but I think I still have probably about 3 or 4 more weeks of it, to be perfectly honest, unless it wraps up very quickly. And I have to say, having a new mouse where I can actually aim has definitely helped my gameplay.
Right. It generally will do that.
Let's see, on RimWorld, last week I had a reset on the series again. And if you was to join that, I do have a name list that I pull colonist names from. So if you was to join let's be perfectly honest, there's a high chance of death. But then again, it's also RimWorld, so that's to be expected. But send me a tweet on Twitter, GameOCR, and I'll add you to my name list if you wish to join the madness that is the town of Hoo-Ha!
Hoo-Ha.
Yeah.
Hoo-Ha.
Yeah, that's the current town name, and every time you see the name change, that means it's a new series.
Why did you name the town after Lady Bits?
The last one was Dutter Fort, so yeah. I'm not joking there. That was actually the name of it.
All right.
And besides, it's, trying to get some clickbait.
Fair play. Fair play. I'll allow it.
And it's fun to say. So, can you at least give me that much?
No, fair play. I'll give you that.
There's been some interesting things that's gone on in this playthrough so far. More so than usual, I might add. But RimWorld's always something that, something interesting usually happens in an episode. Sometimes there's been boring episodes that, it's just, killing time. Me trying to be somewhat entertaining, which, failing to do so usually. Let's see, the third series is, of course, Divinity Original Sin that we're putting out.
So much
for
fun.
Probably the next 7-8 months.
Years.
That's a game that I mentioned that we're at the hour mark and you just are just in disbelief that it's been that long.
That's happened every single time. Even when doing, and I'm doing air quotes, boring stuff, like just running around town and crafting and things. That world is so deep and enjoyable, and all of the mechanics are fantastic. It's like, an hour's passed. I guess we should wrap this up and do another episode.
What, really? Once we got into the combat again, after adding a few spells, it's been quite amazing just how in-depth things have gotten. Especially once we got our third and fourth members of the team.
Yeah.
Granted, combat does slow down a lot with 2 players trolling different characters and discussing what to do. But it's been very enjoyable. And I think that games like that has ruined things like Skyrim for me. You can see where I'm coming from with Skyrim now, right?
A little bit more, yeah. I mean, I still love Skyrim, and I have added a bunch of wacky mods to it, and I plan on playing
I realize that they're 2 very different beasts, but at the same time, I've gotten more used to the more in-depth, if I put down a pool of water, I could zap it to stun a bunch of enemies, or I could just freeze it to make them all fall over.
Yeah.
Or just put down a giant oil slick to slow them down, and then summon the spider to block the doorway.
Yeah.
There's just so many interesting combinations that you could do. And that's just, we're level 3? Level 4?
Yeah.
Medora hit level 4 at the end of our last recording session, that's right. And she's a little bit ahead of us for some reason. I have no idea why.
Well, she started at level 3, and we found her when we were at level 2.
Well, so did Bear Daughter.
Yeah, but we found her a little bit later, didn't we? Hadn't we completed a few quests with
Yeah,
Dora?
maybe.
I don't know.
Yeah,
It's whatever.
it wasn't that much though. So
No, we're all in the same range.
yeah, and plus the voice acting for both Medora and Bear Daughter are just amazing.
Yeah, they are.
And of course, the Sunday Sampler, which you heard what I did this week. Last week was now I'm blanking on what I did last week. It's one of those things that it becomes kind of a blur. I've done 40 some Sunday Samplers now.
Yeah.
And I'm actually going to go double check to see what that was, just to mention it real quick. It was I did the double episode for the dwarves. So yeah, I guess it just I had that double episode, so it didn't really matter. So yeah, that was my last Sunday Sampler. Unless there's something wrong with my playlist, I'm gonna have to go fix, which is very possible. Yeah, the Sunday Sampler always has interesting things. Either me complaining about a game or really loving a game. One of the two. I try to keep the mediocre stuff off of it. Because boy, do I get a lot of mediocre stuff.
Yeah.
And you can find that all over on Gaming with Caffeine Rage. Or if you wish to see me tweet about random stuff. And just commenting. Yeah, I had a... no... I'm just double checking my Sunday Sampler playlist now because it's a little weird. I may have missed something. You can find all that, well, all my tweets over on Gaming with CR, where I tweet about random things. I made a comment about Lara Croft Go appearing on Steam just randomly. There was a little bit in disbelief there because that came out of nowhere.
Yeah.
And it looks like that it has some porting issues as well, which. Oh, there's a big surprise for a mobile game. But yeah, mobile games tend to have a tax on them and just issues with the game design. So it's not really to be unexpected. And I think that's about it.
Alrighty.
Missing anything? I don't think so.
I don't think so.
A little bit more rambly than usual, but... which means it's time to start wrapping things up.
That is correct.
Are we going to start migrating to Podbean?
Yeah. Well, I've considered going all the way through our Game Awards on
the main feed and then do the full transition.
Yeah, because that'll be a year of podcasting. I
Okay.
feel like that's kind of, I don't know, a neat little bow.
Mm-hmm. Do you actually doing a proper transition?
I will. I'm going to post a little thing afterwards when it's done that just says, hey.
My God, you are sick.
We went a whole year. It was wonderful. If you want to continue listening to us, our feed is now over at Podbean. And I'll have
yeah, which means we're actually going to have to fix the Podbean because it only has about 2/3 of the episodes right now.
Yeah, I gotta upload all that from the archives.
And I'm also going to have to try to figure out how to avoid Podbean from double posting when I edit something. Ugh. Yeah, it's learning a new piece of software. But anyway, we're still going to be Internet Archive a little bit, I think. Maybe.
Yep. It'll be, let's see, two more weeks?
Yeah, the cheeky little monkeys will have a couple more weeks. But granted, there are ways to get the Podbean, I think. I haven't looked at the URLs completely, but there are ways. Especially if Jared wants to be nice about the episode file names. Hint, hint.
Hint not taken.
Because that requires effort. So we do thank the Internet Archive for supporting us for just under a year of podcasting.
Indeed.
And we are going to be transitioning to Podbean before too long. So keep an eye out for that URL. Because I do want to get that cleaned up before we start sharing that. Granted, it's not too hard to find us if you go looking.
And once we get our December Patreon payout, I'm going to give them the November and December Patreon, which is about $45. I mean, that I don't think that would ever fully cover everything that we
leached off of them.
Yeah, but I mean, that's what we have, and we're going to give them everything that we have and start the new year off blank and fresh and ready to go.
Just like you've had a night with the Shikhadrabot.
Oh yeah. Give me that Shikhadrabot, baby.
Oh my.
I'm coming for you, if you know what I mean.
I think I need an adult. But if you wish to, let Jared know just how much you've traumatized him, you could email us over at vglpodcast@gmail.com with your letters, complaints, and fan art of the Shikhadrabot and Jared.
Please do, Kyle.
Or you could tweet us at VGL Podcast on Twitter. And we, of course, have the Steam curator and group, steamcommunity.com/group/VGL Podcast. And the curator is also at that URL, but that is a separate follow. And we need to work on actually updating that at some point. Because, yeah, that's fallen way behind.
Indeed.
Our Patreon, if you wish to, toss the Internet Archive a little bit of money, but also support us in the new year. Patreon.com/VGL Podcasts. And our website, at least for the time being, is videogamelogicpodcast.blogspot.com. And you can find us also on iTunes, Google Play, or wherever Jared sticks, us and the Shikhadrabot.
Wink.
Our intro and outro music is On the Ground by Kevin McLeod, and you can find his work at incompetech.com. And as the Shikhadrabot...
I'm sorry, but that transition just doesn't work as well. But as his lovely music starts to roll across my voice, bye-bye now.
Please help.
Bye-bye.
I need an adult.
Bye.